I can't remember if we've talked about this before, but it's definitely been like a recurring theme in my life because I think I'm just coming into like this video production as a business at this weird point where like the technology's gotten cheap enough and like good enough with the phone and people have found success doing video super cheaply with nothing that now it makes like the training with this stuff less, it's maybe not necessarily less valuable because commercial video production is still, there's still crews doing high level production and stuff, but like I guess all it means is like you can find success with very little video equipment making videos. It's just a different kind of video altogether. And I don't know what the analog to that is, like what the comparison to that is, but it's just a very crazy time to emerge in like the video production industry, trying to find my footing, what I want to get into. And I'm doing like, I buy all this stuff because that's what's hot, but then all of a sudden TikTok comes out and people are having a lot of success, you know, just with their phones. So,
dude, and that's like you said, you want to talk about the EI approach. I mean, that couldn't be a more perfect segue because, like, it is, man. We're living in this new reality where only our generations have been here, where there are completely new industries, there are completely new opportunities to make money, and like, yeah, the video production industry, you know, it used to have to have a degree
yep.
and or work in Hollywood,
Or know somebody,
have hundreds of thousands of dollars of
connections
equipment,
yeah.
and now like literally influencers make significantly more. The top influencers make significantly more money than the top CEOs of the top companies. It's phenomenal, but it is also too, you know, they're old and sluggish, but there's so many new emerging things. It's like it is kind of cool because like, you know, the way that I kind of hear you saying it, you're like, oh, it's kind of a problem, which yes, it is kind of.
It's only a problem if you're like that black turtleneck artist where you're like, that shit is so low. Like that's what I'm grappling with. It's like, I always loved like seeing something that looks really cinematic. I'm like, wow, that's what I want to emulate. Like I want to recreate like these A24 movies and like write a beautiful script and tell a beautiful story and color grade and like do all those really finessey things. But if I'm trying to marry that with like quick success, like at this ground level in a local place, it's like, if you want to be doing video, sometimes you got to sell your soul a little bit to work your way to that point maybe. But anyways.
Well, yeah. And this hits on like one of the things with the EI approach is, and I will probably, I guess, have to talk
Define
about
it
what
at
it
some
is.
point,
Yeah,
yeah.
in a minute. But with most entrepreneurs that I have found myself in and talking with a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, which I think are kind of inherently different, and self-employed, they're all are a little bit different. But man, I have, until I hit the wall and rock bottom and was forced to do this, like I've realized that very few people actually start a business with a goal in mind. Like they just do it because they're like, I want to do this. And then, you know, you're kind of alluding to it, I would even say, because there are more opportunities than ever, which can really lead to analysis paralysis. And like, really, I mean, the paths of like a cinematic, you know, Hollywood videographer is so drastically different than a YouTuber, or
yeah.
even a
Content
business
creator,
person,
yeah.
or even a content creator. Those are inherently like similar, but very, very different. Because like if you just want to be strictly a YouTuber, now you do kind of have to be cinematic. But if you want to teach people about how to be a cinematographer and you're a content creator, it's very different. It's very different.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting point, is that you can kind of connect those things in that way, but you don't necessarily have to, like you can get to that cinematic point just by going through the motions of being a content creator first. And that's how you make your living, you know, just churning things out.
And that's like the question, you know, that I would say, like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to make a living? Are you trying to make a lot of money? Are you trying to be an artist? Are you trying to be famous for your movie making? And like a lot of people don't kind of
Start
down.
with setting the goal. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, what am I trying to do? And not even, and I like, I like aspirations more than I like goals. Of kind of like, I think goals are important, but I think goals are a very valuable tool, most often used incorrectly.
Okay.
I think people set these giant,
As in they're put in stone and people put too much weight on them or in them?
yes, and in my personal experience, I think goals should only be for the very next step. You know, like, or just a couple steps out. You shouldn't have really long-term goals. You should have long-term aspirations.
Okay.
So that you're not, it's like, hey, I'm trying to go for this area. This is kind of what I'm trying to do. And this is just from my experience. Like, I've had so many experiences where I've realized as I'm going, it's like, oh, I actually didn't really want this. And YouTube tying this all together, like when I first picked up a camera and started doing this, I thought I wanted to be a YouTuber, which then it was like, oh, okay, that means I have to be a cinematographer and all. So I was like, okay, well, I got to learn these things.
Editor, yeah.
And then as I started doing it and I realized, oh, this is what an actual YouTuber is. And that's not what I want to be. Like, I don't want to be cinematic. Like, I want to tell stories or I want to
Information
I
out
want to
there.
create content.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, I don't need to focus on making beautiful content. I need to have valuable things to say.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's like so dramatically different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it because, like, at the end of the day, even when film was first invented, or I shouldn't even say invented, but even back in its heyday, like, video was only used for making big spectacular movies. Like, there was no other, or, you know, or maybe by scientists to record things, you know, but like, now that video is so, I don't know the
Prevalent?
prevalent. Yep. Now that it's so prevalent and anybody can do it at any time, it really is like, it's not worth clinging to the idea that like video is meant to be for creating movies and pieces of art. Like it can be for conveying information. It can be for recording and just distributing information. It can be like just to, you know, it can be purely a way to drive information, I guess.
And that opportunity is brand new.
Yeah.
With the invention of high quality smartphones.
Yeah.
You know, so like honestly, I mean, it's been like
And broadband internet, I would say too.
Yeah.
Like sharing that kind of information that quickly. Yeah.
For sure, like the sharing the information, but even like being able to create a decent, you know, like when could
And
you
keep
even
it to
record
yourself.
a decent video?
Dude,
like
yeah,
iPhone 6 or something?
Yeah.
You know, I have no idea.
It wasn't, but you're right. It wasn't even the first. Maybe it was the first iPhone, but
nothing
even
of
then,
anything that you could have actually like uploaded or quality. And you know, having TikTok, like that's a brand new platform.
Yeah.
Like all these things are brand new. These are literally opportunities to like the redefining.
I'm breathing a sigh of relief here because it's like, you know, maybe it just feels like it's happening really fast because it did happen really fast.
It
and
happened.
Like, it's not like I should have just been like totally prepared and
Dude,
you know, for. Yeah.
And we're living in that reality right now. Like the EI approach is kind of like recognizing like, no, we are in this entirely new way of living that, you know, with these technologies, like our parents, these
They
concerns,
couldn't have fathomed it, yeah.
They can't fathom it. Like that's one of the things with college education. It's so funny. Like you go try to learn something new and innovative in a 4-year degree, and literally the things that you've learned are outdated by the time you're done.
That's crazy.
And that's a totally new reality that we live in, which creates more opportunities than ever because there aren't any experts.
Yeah.
There is nobody that has 20 years of social media management experience in the world.
That's a trip. That fact is a trip. There's no one that has 20 years of experience in social media.
No.
Because literally that's impossible.
Absolutely.
Because that's
you know, there's nobody
Wow.
that has more than 3 years of experience in TikTok. And it is the most valuable social media platform out there. And it might not even be around next year. I mean,
Dude,
like, you know,
that's
like,
a trip. Yeah.
and this is
it's the most valuable thing in the world, and it might not even exist.
No.
Which would be a really good segue into Bitcoin and altcoins and
boy.
stuff, which I want to talk to you about. But let's finish this first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy how quickly it happens, how quickly people can monetize off of this kind of thing too.
Yeah, and this reminds me of a conversation that I had with another student in the class. And just for context for the podcast, I'm in my master's program for MBA.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 terms left. And one of the classes, we were just finishing up our final projects. And there was a senior who, in my mind now, you know, because I'm 33, not old, but when you're talking to a 21-year-old who's just graduating college, it does feel quite a bit different.
It's a generation gap for sure.
It is.
It's like your little brother, 10-year younger brother. Yeah, he didn't hang out with you and your friends. You know, that's how you're thinking about it. Yeah.
And he told me something, you know, and I could totally reminisce with him because I had this mentality for a long time. But he was like, gave a presentation. He's like, oh yeah, I can't do like the techie stuff. Like I'm the business minded stuff. And I was like, you better, I didn't say it exactly like this, but I was like, you got to change that attitude. I was like, you are way too young to have the mentality of like, you don't know these things, because if you want to have any value in business, and it was kind of the same thing I explained to you, like some of the most valuable positions in business didn't exist 10 years ago. So if you really want to crush it, like you're not going to crush it with a business degree.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to go into the world
Alone.
and make a difference. Like, no. But if you can video edit, or if you can run a CRM, I was telling these guys, I pay between $100 and $125 an hour for consultants on a very specific product that I don't even care if these people have a 8th grade education.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I have a very specific need for a skill, and these guys' eyes just exploded. I was like, guys, this is like the reality that we live in now. Like, you're not going to go get these jobs because you have a 4-year business degree.
Yeah.
But if you go spend 18 months learning these skills,
Yeah. Then you could
Yeah.
make more money.
unbelievably so. And
Yeah.
it's like, and not that either one is good or bad, but just the mentality of like, I don't know that stuff. It's like, yeah, you're damn right you don't. So you better start learn. And that's what I said. I think one of the most valuable skills for business people or entrepreneurs in the future is like being flexible and learning new skills, because like business is going to be so different in the next 10 or 15 years.
Dude, I can only imagine. And this EI approach to kind of add another hand of a blind man to try to figure out what this elephant is, this amorphous figure of EI, which
Should we define it?
yeah, give me the 4 or 5 whatever
okay.
they are.
So EI
I almost have
approach.
it memorized.
Yeah, the
entrepreneurs of the internet. I'll start the first one.
Yep, entrepreneurs of the internet pursuing exponential income.
Exponential income.
Driven by expanding influence and secured by enduring investments.
Enduring investments.
Yep.
That's right.
And somebody added another one that was pretty good. Those are kind of it's an evolution of the idea. It started as just exponential.
Do you realize
income,
you just you just said that evolution of an idea?
Oh yeah.
You're, without even thinking about it, EI is just it's just coming out of you. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's okay. So, and what that is in total is kind of just a new way of thinking about economics, or just like the economic model we're currently operating within. Like,
I would say it's it tentatively part of it is like the new entrepreneurial business model.
model. Okay.
Yes.
As opposed to what's the current entrepreneurial business model, would you say?
The current entrepreneurial business model is a very scaled down version of the large corporate model. So it's like, hey, you need to do all these things exactly like large corporations do it. And there is something, I now have enough experience to say confidently, like large organizations and small businesses are inherently different, and they should be ran inherently different. And for me, one of the biggest things,
just like how the laws of physics changed, the laws of physics actually change depending on how big or small you are, basically.
Exactly. And we even touched on what I personally realized in my own experiences, what I think is one of the most valuable things that is not taught in business school or in the business plans now is like, what as an entrepreneur are you trying to get out of this? Because I would argue that the old business model is built on a growth imperative. You got to get bigger. You got to get bigger. You got to get bigger, which is foolish. I mean, it only works for shareholders. If you have shareholders in a company, that is the only time you should ever have a growth imperative.
Okay.
So with a small business, like what I would really encourage people, like the new entrepreneurial business model is like, would be more of like what's called a lifestyle business, where okay, you want to approach this because eventually you're not trying to make $10 million a year, you're trying to make $150,000 a year working 10 hours a week. So you can spend all of your time with your family. Or
it sounds like you're also factoring in how much time you're trading for money in this EI model.
Yeah, the business model actually takes into account the human being doing it and what they're trying to get out of it.
What a crazy concept.
What a crazy concept of like, what is this business
Whereas
actually
it
supposed
sounds like
to do?
school right now is just training you how to become a machine, how to become a cog, more
It is.
more specifically,
How to be a manager.
Right.
Middle to upper management.
Which, dude, that podcast that I'd sent you, I want to get into a few of the ideas in there because it talks exactly about that and just like the downfall of our. Had you heard of that guy David Sachs before? I'd never heard of him before I listened to that, but
not his name. I know the
PayPal people.
The PayPal Mafia. Is that what they call them?
Yeah,
PayPal
Mafia.
Yeah, I knew that.
That's such a gangster name,
dude. For
like,
sure.
I wish I could have been on the PayPal Mafia.
Have you seen
PayPal?
The PayPal Mafia, like what they've gone and done?
Not like I haven't seen all the trees from the branches. I was briefly reading that Wikipedia article of him and what he did, and I'm like, wow. Got behind Facebook, got behind Airbnb, all those like early investor. I'm like, wow. That's how you make money. You spend a shit ton of money on other things that make money.
But he even said, though, which was interesting, because if you, and I don't remember the PayPal Mafia, but if you go look at it, like it
Peter
is,
Thiel was one of them.
there's a lot of them, and they've all gone and done very, very impactful things. Like just
Didn't Elon Musk invent PayPal? He was
no, he didn't. I don't. Okay, I don't think
is that a misconception?
he wasn't the only person. He
Right.
was part
I
of
thought it was
it.
like him and his brother or something that like originally came up and sold it before it got sold to eBay. I know he didn't invent Tesla. He bought that from some people, but I thought PayPal was his first big like boost of that got him somewhere.
He got a ton of money from it, so I know he was a big part of it.
Okay.
I don't know the specifics. I should, because I call myself an Elon fanboy, but apparently
I know, right? Same. I want to talk about Elon too. That's,
Like,
we're
damn,
already
I don't
doing.
really
We're
actually
already
know.
unable to pay him the lip service he deserves.
Right?
Praise be Elon.
Say less.
Yeah. Take us to Mars, bro. Dogecoin to the moon.
Yeah,
Dude, I feel for that guy. I would love to be him right now, though. If I was being honest,
it's fun to watch.
it's so amazing, dude.
Yep.
It's just like beautiful to just sit back and revel in it and be like. And that's coming from someone who doesn't interact with Twitter at all. Like,
Me either.
I never have used it. Well, I have an account. Used it to browse through in like the last year. I've been using it more, but like never had one, never cared.
Nope.
Like the town square not taking part now. He's like, if you have an account and you're not using it, please start using it. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
I was like, he's calling us out. Like the people who make the bot accounts that you don't ever act like it hurts Twitter when you do that apparently, which makes sense, from their business model. They're trying to like get everyone on there to be active. But anyways,
Well, it was really interesting. I probably shouldn't put my toe into this water because I don't know enough about it. But like the podcast talking about how the management culture and the entrepreneurial or the founder culture is different, and how Twitter was very much kind of that managerial heavy, coming from the education background of just a very, bubbled education.
Yeah.
And then you've got somebody coming in that's like, no, this isn't,
they're
because
trained how to be a manager. Like when he said that, I was like,
said
that's
what?
weird.
I missed.
In the podcast when he said the people coming in now are, so I don't know if that's what you were talking about,
Yes.
but the people who are taking over for those entrepreneurs who die or retire, they're trained how to be managers.
Yep.
They're trained how to lead people, but they're not doing it from a place of like, this was my dream to start Microsoft like Bill Gates. Like my dream is to keep my position and my salary almost. I don't know.
It's
It's a shame, but I don't know how and he said the loop is closed now because those managers hire now in turn other managers with MBAs, and then it's just so I don't know what's the way out of this at this point.
With that specific one, and this is a huge, I don't even know what to say. It's not issue in my life. Like a source of passion is like, we got to address our higher education. Like that's what's, and even that podcast talks about it. It's like these people come from this very...
And do you get that sense?
Oh my gosh,
you're
dude.
in that program
Dude,
right now, and that's why
I'm like
I value
embarrassed.
that more than
Yeah.
you being like a quote unquote expert on something. Because like this whole podcast, I'm doing this like I don't want to. There's enough of people out there talking to experts and like famous people already. Like, there's so much wisdom like to be gained from people in like this level of position that are like in the midst of something, not necessarily on the top, but they're like. But anyways, so the fact that you're in the midst of this degree program, do you see exactly what they're talking about? Of a bunch of people just who are yes men, yes women, and just doing it to get the raise, working towards that. They're not very idealistic.
It's been an amazing process, I will say, because going back into the master's program, I felt like a complete hypocrite. I still kind of very much do, although that's not the right word.
And the hypocrite in the sense you're doing the opposite of what you're telling people to do?
No, because I passionately think like I encourage people not to go to college.
Okay. Yeah,
Like
see what
I
you're saying.
encourage people not to go to college. Granted, and this sounds really arrogant. Like I do feel like I'm in a different position because I've figured out what the heck I want to do.
Yeah.
I am not in college for the. I'm not expecting to use
to
that.
be hired as a mid manager.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm not using that at all.
Yeah. But it sounds like you're making connections and just gaining general life experience from it. And learning lessons, good or bad.
There's some I have learned a ton, and very few of the lessons that I've learned have come from the curriculum. I will say that.
Okay.
Because I mean, in this again, like I've learned very few things. Like I've known, other than of course accounting, the specifics of accounting, which are, in my opinion, like they're very important to business. An entrepreneur doesn't need to know that. You need to know how to hire somebody to do that type of stuff.
Okay.
Like,
See,
so
these are the when you start learning about like marketing being a job, I just thought like when you know business, you know, I don't know, this is me as a 5-year-old thinking about this nebulous idea of being a CEO or something. It's like my naive term of it. It's like when you're a CEO, like you know everything that's business. It's just marketing, accounting, like HR and like, but it's like, no, those are all their own like specialty. It's like thinking a biologist and a fucking
yeah,
economist
Yeah.
are like the same thing, you know, like it's but these are it's weird for me to think of though in the terms of a business, like being a CEO or being a COO is an entirely different job from the marketing or the merchandising or the like
And-
that seems weird to me.
and so let's jump back to this inherent difference between large and small businesses
Yeah,
because
that's another big difference. Yeah.
yes, because in a large corporation, what I would say, a CEO is literally like you are a general. You are an orchestrator.
You're growing the company. You're not doing the day-to-day shit.
Oh,
You're looking forward, not inward.
Well,
kinda.
that should be everybody's in the C-suite position, I would say. Like,
Okay.
you know, once you
What
get
does
to
that
that
mean?
position, the chiefs of COOs, CFOs, the C-suites, the people that are like making the calls and the shots. But like in each one of those has a department that they're head of. COO, chief operation officer or something. CFO, finance, that type of stuff. They've got their own category they're looking after. The CEO, the chief executive officer, doesn't have a department. He doesn't have anybody necessarily that he's looking over. He is like, he's going to all of these heads. Is everything you said you're doing being done?
Right.
And if not, how do we change it? So he doesn't do anything specific.
Yeah.
In a small business, it's the exact opposite. The CEO, the owner, is doing fucking everything. And there's no way you can do it all.
Which is reason number one, we have to think of these differently. Like
Yes.
when you're starting off, you are doing 8 different jobs at a smaller scale, but you're still doing 8 different jobs,
Yes.
basically. Okay.
And
people don't necessarily realize that when they want to be business owners. They see a CEO, they're like, oh, I'll be my own CEO. It's like, well, joke's on you. They have 7 people working for them who have hundreds of people working for them. Like,
and as a startup, like, dude, it's such a long way till you get a C-suite to have a board of directors. Like, that is a large company, which very few people get to. Like, when
Right.
you're starting a business, when you're an entrepreneur, like, you aren't doing anything cool or fun.
Yeah.
Like, you are doing all of the very menial tasks that any person can do. You just can't afford you can't afford to pay anybody to do these things.
Yeah.
So, like, that's kind of how it starts. And I think one of the best analogies of this that I've heard was a friend of mine said, you know, he used to think starting a business was like slaying a dragon, but in reality, it's killing a bunch of tiny lizards. That's all it is. One really simple task at a time. You just have to kind of know what lizards to kill, what lizards you can let live, when you can hire people to come kill the super easy lizards. Like, that's what it for the longest
I love
time.
this dude. Just like Aragon, the book, right?
I'm not familiar.
I'm just fucking kidding. That was all about slaying dragons. That's a crazy analogy, man. I know that there's some nerds nerding out over that too. They're like, you know what? I can do this. Like I can hear some people crawling out of their mother's basement to that phrase. Like it's just a bunch of lizards, man. Just stomp them on your way out the house and wow.
And that's kind of why I'm trying to,
That's awesome.
the EI approach is trying to encourage people to really, like, with the way the economy is going right now, like, I mean, before COVID, I was really hesitant to tell people that you should work for yourself because as an entrepreneur and doing all this stuff, like, it's a curse.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the way the economy is going right now and the way wages are going and cost of living. I honestly believe that it is safer and you have much better options figuring out how to do this for yourself, learning how to control your own finances. And so, like, the EI approach is hopefully when it's an idea right now, but hopefully when it becomes a book or whatever, is hopefully a structure or a hand-holding guide of like, hey, these are the things that you can do with the new way of making money. Because like business is so inherently, I feel like I feel like it's very unapproachable because there's so many terms and people feel like you have to go to business school to learn these things. And to be honest, there's not a lot of people that have actually started businesses and have even really tried. And none of them teach in colleges. Very few of them actually teach.
Right, because those who teach are those who didn't succeed, or however the phrase goes.
Yeah,
It's like one of those things. It's like usually, I mean, unless you're at like, those Ivy League schools, they're actually doing research papers and stuff, but I don't know.
Well, and this is when I'm trying not to get on too many trains of thoughts, but one of the things that's been so eye-opening going back to school is realizing, having a lot of business experience and realizing like college is just a business and your professors are just employees. Like that's all that's going on right here. And you as a student are the customer. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so like looking at it from that perspective, it's like, how could you possibly learn how to build a business from an employee? You can't.
That's crazy.
You just can't.
Building a business from learning from an employee, because they're the employees, you're the customer.
Yeah.
This is the sheep thing you're being led through is college.
And so they can only train you how to be an employee.
Yeah.
And it's not that hard, especially now going back to like,
which like that training you how to be an employee, albeit maybe a better way to phrase that would be teach you how to be an employee at a high level, how to like manage people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which granted, I guess that's a step above something you could just learn working at like Target or something, being an actual employee. So, I could see at least there's value in school in that way, that it teaches you how to manage people. But I would be willing to explore like other ways in our society, or perhaps even through the AI approach, that one could just gain the skill, whether it's through different tools on the internet, of how to manage people without actually being put in a position and seeing how you do or something, for a company with a safety net of pay, of salary or something. Like, how does one learn how to manage people, I guess, in this approach? Or is that even an important thing we should be learning how to do if we're all working for ourselves?
Okay, man, there's like, my mind went like 10 different directions.
I even wrote down like a list, but I knew I wouldn't need it, bro. I knew we were just going to get into it and things were going to lead. The only thing so far that I know I want to touch on again is like the fact of you claiming to be hypocritical for this, because I want to talk about more about school and like whether that's worth going back to.
Yes, thank you. That was one of the points.
Important, yeah.
So one of the things that I've realized going back to school, your education program, there's so many things I'd love to talk about, so I'll try to stay on track. But right now, what I think people should look at a college education or diploma as it is simply a business certification. That is it. You will not get certain jobs without this certification, and that is exactly what an MBA is.
Just like a welder, you have to be certified by some board somewhere to weld.
And call it whatever you want. It is a hoop you have to jump through to get a better job. You're not going to get educated on these things. Like, and not just that, like, there's no way that you will learn the skills that you need to learn in a liberal arts school, and not inherently talking down to liberal arts, but like you learn a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. You never get hired for a job doing that. You're going to go get hired to learn one very specific job. Yeah,
it's almost like you're wasting all this time learning about this, like taking this class on, I don't know, statistics or something, when you're not going to use it. That's a poor example, but
no, it's a great
people know
example.
what I mean.
It's an absolutely.
It's like, why am I taking a statistics class? It's like, well, to be well rounded. It's like, but I know that's not a job. There's no job about where being well rounded is a good thing to do. It's like, be good at this one thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And what it is now is it's a certificate that you can show your employers that says, I will jump through bullshit hoops for 4 years.
I endured 4 years of suck.
Bullshit.
Dude, this guy Coleman Hughes on that podcast I sent you, the host, that's one of his things is like, college has just become a proof to future employers that you can sit through 4 years of shit and follow orders and take lessons and do things.
And I realized now I was really blessed.
A C.
Yeah, I was really,
and not even do it at your best.
No,
just do it good enough.
Just
that's fucking
you won't
crazy
quit.
To think about.
It's saying you won't quit. Like I can throw a bunch of horse shit at you and you won't quit. And that's why it's like, you'll be a great middle management. Like you will do whatever the hell I say.
Which, dude, at least the military, you get to be in physical shape while you do it too. So you might as well be in the military. Like that's what blows my mind.
You almost got it. I was fortunate enough, and this is kind of what inspired me. Well, I realized that I had a little bit of a different perspective being raised by an entrepreneur and a business owner who had an education but worked in blue collar and like honestly like talked shit about education the whole time. His one, and I think one of the most brilliant things my father ever said, for all of his flaws, and he had some great qualities, but he said never let school get in the way of your education. And I think that's brilliant if you're going to be educated. But I don't think
Yeah.
higher education is for education anymore. It is a hoop jumping.
Endure the suck program.
Yeah. And also though, I actually kind of have to walk that back in a little bit of a, this is a change in perspective that I have had recently. And this goes into the specifics of the EI approach and the pyramid perspective of there's only really three things that make up your life: knowledge, experience, and skills. And education is one of those really specific areas where, like, I used to argue this as well, and I have a lot of friends, and I think there's a lot of validity to it of like, no, I've gone and educated myself, and I've learned a lot of this stuff, and there's a ton of validity to that. I have done that as well. I've read most of the top business books and self-improvement books.
Because you were required to, but you still read them,
No, all outside of that.
Oh,
all
nice.
outside, like, the E-Myth Revisited and How to Make Friends and Influence People and just Crucial Conversations, all of these things I've read on my own. But the thing going back to school, which really changed my perspective, is like I have learned certain things that I never would have learned because I had to do projects or do things I never would have wanted to learn on my own.
Yeah.
And that I've realized, like, I don't think that it's that important to do a good job. I don't think that it's that important to like get hired. I think there is a ton, and this is where I've changed my perspective. I
Yeah.
think there's a ton of value in education.
Yeah.
I don't think higher education really gives you a lot of that.
Yeah.
But I do recognize there is an inherent value of like being forced to do things you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because you'll learn things you wouldn't have learned otherwise.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I can also say that that's a bit of a change of heart that I've had recently as well. Like, I started off right out of high school, went to RCC, did it the cheap way. And my mom was actually a part-time instructor there. So I got like even a slightly more
Good.
discount
Well
going there.
done.
So I was like, dude, I'm going to take the Pell Grants and the free shit,
Yes.
get all my first credit. Like, at least I did it the smart way. So I'm pretty fortunate just in the sense that like, I'm not going to be drowning in student debt forever. Like a lot of people who are really unfortunate, which that's a whole other discussion, obviously. A whole other thing you have to take into account about whether college is worth it is literally money wise isn't worth it. I was pretty fortunate in that way. And then going to SOU, I just kind of rode the ride and shook the hands and did the work that needed to be done. And, coming from somebody, it was a Bachelor of Arts degree. So a lot different than a Bachelor of Science. If you can imagine, it's pretty much the easiest degree you could get. It's like the exact thing of getting an English degree or something, not to knock on friends of mine, but it's just like, that's at least, I don't know. 'Cause when you say, like we've been saying, like if you try to make a blanket term, like school is useless, there's a lot of ifs, ands, and buts you have to put in there. Of course, a lot of qualifiers for like what your degree is, how long you're there, how much you've paid, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also glad, I'm with you on the sense that I'm also glad I went and experienced it and did that because I was only there for 2 years at SOU and, paying that full tuition at a liberal arts college. So I didn't have to endure the suck for quite as long. But it also gave me that perspective of like what students are like who are going there, what their goals are, what they're trying to be, what they're trying to do, and what we're really learning in these classrooms that are, all this money went into this program. A lot of somebody's teaching this, like there's all this money in this equipment, all this time and energy has been focused geographically in this town of Ashland in this one spot to get this one thing done. And what's the fruit of that? Like, I don't know, a few people who are like not skipping class and not even showing up, not even giving their attention, and a teacher who only half cares. It's like, you kind of see it's kind of fucked up, but it's like, I'm glad I did it because I saw how shitty it was.
Yeah.
It's like, it's obviously more complicated, nuanced than that, but, and it wasn't shitty, but in the case of my degree, before I know you have shit to say because I want to hear it.
Totally.
But, in the case of my degree specifically, which was just in video production, it was actually called Emerging Media and Digital Arts, which I think credit to them for thinking of the best way to like give you a well-rounded, like you take podcasting, you take Photoshop, you
Oh,
take video, you take audio,
really?
like
That's
they
pretty.
try to writing, like creative writing, they try to bundle it all into one thing so that you can kind of have a grasp of everything a little bit.
Wow.
In digital art, I think that's probably a good thing, honestly, than trying to like
I
give you
think
a degree in just podcasting or something. So at least, credit to them for that. And then I got a concentration in digital cinema. So the cinema program, when you're talking about the value of school, like nothing is lower on the totem pole than a fucking film degree nowadays in society. Maybe it's just
I
maybe I'm
think,
biased because I just
dude, I
come
think that
about it
was
a lot.
really true with your parents' generation. I think that script has flipped.
Really,
Well, film. I mean, as much
an
as
actual
like
degree.
having an actual a degree. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. You have a degree, so you have the same degree everybody else has. You have a
Yeah.
degree. So
Yeah.
you now have, it doesn't matter. You have a film degree. It doesn't matter. You can go get any job that requires a degree.
Yeah.
You have the business certification.
Oh, really? So you think
They
top
don't-
companies don't care about
No,
what
they
kind of
don't.
degree you
No,
have?
They don't. They literally don't.
Oh God, that's fucked.
They don't care.
That throws a wrench in this whole
No,
conversation.
they don't literally care. There are so
my
many
God.
corporate jobs you are not allowed to get if you do not have a bachelor's degree.
And,
and
then,
that's
and
it.
they stop there.
And that's it.
Bachelor's preferred.
Yep.
Or bachelor's required
Yep.
on the thing.
And same thing
And
with
that's-
master's degrees.
Wow.
Same freaking thing. There are a bunch of great paying jobs
Wow.
that you can get if you have an MBA. And I will tell you this, and this is one of them might get in trouble for me.
Good.
I
in.
learned from the same school, and granted, it changed quite a bit. The professors have changed. I learned significantly more about business in my bachelor's degree. Like, you just went over way more classes.
Dude, and you learn about people. That's my last quick
Yep.
interjection. But
Yep.
just that school experience, you really learn about, like, again, when you're spending that type of money, or like you learn about that's where
sure.
you're embedded in a place with a lot of people who have the same goal as you and same aspiration. It's, again, just to draw the analog to the military, even though I've never been in. You really get to know people when you see them going through the same things you are and reacting differently and treating it differently and thinking about it differently. Like, oh, I don't know. School can be a good teacher in that way too. That's the only other value I think you could take. But sorry, what you were saying is,
where I was going with this is a lot of people. It's been amazing. I'm not even finished yet, but just the fact that telling people I'm getting my master's in business, that actually has an impact. People will actually listen to you, which is completely unfounded.
Well,
it's completely
it makes
unfounded.
sense.
Well, no,
I would
I mean,
say.
it does. I mean, it makes sense from a societal standpoint, but having gone through this, and this is one of these things, being in it, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It is a joke. Like, the people, no
Yeah.
offense, but the people that are going through the master's program that I'm going through with right now have basically no more qualifications or skills to run or manage any company than anybody else, because the schooling you go through has almost no real bearing on any jobs you're going to get. There are a few, I will say that.
Yeah.
But most of these people have no business experience beforehand anyway. These people have English degrees. These people have teaching degrees. These people have any other. But I thought getting into the master's program, I was going to be with a bunch of people that liked business. Most of these people don't literally know the first thing about business going in here. And then they take 18 months of 6 credits.
oh God.
So, which is like the equivalent of like probably 9 months worth of work
Yeah.
doing shit that is, one of these is learning all of the accounting things that you're never going to have to do unless you're an
You're gonna pay
accountant.
somebody for that.
You
yeah.
will go get somebody that has an accounting degree
Yeah.
to go do this. Like, so literally, guys, do not put an MBA program in it, and it does make a difference of like the top tier. This is one of the weird things with college too. There are other values, like if you go to a top tier college, one, the education is, it can be better, but just the inherent networks that you get from there.
Yeah.
But like the fact of the
Networks,
matter is, an MBA, a master's in business administration,
On its
won't
face.
help you out. Go hire somebody that's done the job. Go promote the disgruntled employee that thinks you're an idiot, because you're probably an idiot and he probably knows more than you. And the person that you're going to hire from an MBA is going to give you lip service and tell you, yes, let's do this.
Exactly, dude.
We need to run this accounting and this and that. No, you don't. You need to sell shit.
Yeah.
You need to make it simple. You need to sell shit. You need to make a lot of money, and then from there you can figure all the rest of it out.
Yeah. Dude, yeah, that's I don't think that's a hot take at all. I think that's kind of the rude awakening people are sort of realizing, like, and I think it's only a matter of time. We're already on that course of like people wanting companies to be brands more than they're wanting them to be like like they want to get to know the brand. Brands need to be more transparent, like if they want to make it, which I think does help a little bit. It turns people more into like, okay, what are our values? Like, it kind of forces them to at least ask themselves that. I wish that was something that would have come up in that podcast. Like, if I had one critique, that's kind of what it would be. It's like their whole thing was like, we're just training people to be managers, and those managers are just going to be managers, and no one's ever going to lead anymore. And it's like, well, clearly, like, there's companies like Warby Parker, those little ones that still are made from entrepreneurs. Those are young guys who are like running that and are probably going to grow it into something idealistic. But like, I also think that because it's almost impossible to like run a big company without having some sort of like philosophy or people knowing what you're about or what you value. Yeah. Of course, there's a lot of virtue signaling. So it's kind of, you don't know if they're really telling the truth. And that's a whole other topic too. But I don't know.
A lot of great topics.
Yeah, exactly.
We could go.
That's why we're just going to have to do this over and over
For
again.
sure.
But yeah, I just think that there could be harm to that. A lot of people with MBAs just flooding the, that, I think he called it the professional class. That's what's like
expert class, I think.
Expert class,
yep. Or maybe professional too, but kind of that same idea.
And so what is that like?
So what is that?
Did you get a definition of that from?
I was really eye opening. I'm not through the podcast entirely yet, but it was really eye opening because as I'm going through this process right now, actually, of understanding, like, as I'm building this other business, so just for the background, like, I grew up blue collar, fabrication machining, started doing that 9 years old. I have owned construction companies. I ended up taking over that fabrication machine shop, running it for a while, selling it. I grew up very blue collar. Now I am doing an insurance agency with a business. That's one company I'm doing with another business consulting company on the side, which is very white collar. Both of these things, but as I'm recognizing too, there are inherent differences between how large corporations should be run and how small corporations should be run. Mm-hmm. But the interesting thing is, as I'm doing this EI approach, like, I think that most small business owners really kind of want the lifestyle business. I am also one of those people. I had to recognize and admit, like, I love business. Like, this is my passion.
Yeah.
So I'm actually trying to grow a large company. Like, I'm not trying to do a lifestyle business. My lifestyle is like, I want to go big. Yeah. And when I was doing that, I recognized, like, if you do actually want to grow a large company, there's a reasons you do it corporately. Like, they got that way. If your goal is to grow huge, and it sucks because it's boring, and he talks about it in that podcast, but it's like all of the things I'm creating that I know make a good business makes me revolt. Like, I hate it. The very structured, you do this every time, this way, this, like, as an entrepreneur, I hate it. But also, if you want to grow a giant company, that's what you do. Yeah. And it's proven.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But you don't have to do that. And that's kind of this really interesting place that I'm at right now, is literally, I would encourage most people to not do that. Not do what I'm doing, which feels very kind of...
But you're teaching people to follow their passion, and you're saying, this is my passion, growing a huge business. Your passion might be working for a big business as their specialty person in this, or your passion could be doing your own business, but smaller scale. Your passion could be, like, it sounds like your model is very modular in that sense that you can apply, again, once you, I'm sure, get some of these things that, like, tenets written down and stuff, like, these can be rules and things that you can apply to get to any sort of financial class you want to be at, and like, but first, taking that first step, like you said, another thing you don't really get in school is like taking that first step to think about who you are yourself, what you want, setting that initial goal. What do I want? Like, because a lot of people set the goal of, like, I want to get a business degree. And that's their goal. And that's why they're in that spot. And that's the only reason they're in that spot. And that's the way I was too. I was like, well, I already committed to, dude, and I didn't really finish saying it, but I to get my 2-year degree from a community college here, it took me 5 years because I had no idea what I wanted. I failed out of school because I was just miserable taking the classes that I wanted. They made me take these classes programming that I'm like, why, dude? Yeah. Like, I don't want to learn Dreamweaver, bro. Like, I don't even know what this is. Dude, I shit you not. I signed up for that class 3 different terms and failed it every time.
Really?
Because I just could not bring myself to do the work. I was like, it was remote. So that was part of it too. I think if it was in person, maybe I could have done it better. But it was all remote, and there was one other class that was like that too. But dude, I failed it 3 times. They suspended me. Dude, I got suspended from a community college.
Nice. I almost got expelled from mine. So.
Yeah, dude, it's a crazy. You have to write a letter to, like, ask to come back to a community college. I'm like, dude, That was the low point for me. I was like, okay, man. So they let me come back, thank God, because I'm sure the graduation rates needed it.
Yep. You are the customer. That's another thing to remember.
That's the whole thing. It's like you're asking me to come back and your graduation rates are like 20% or something. Like, but anyways, did that, got out of it. And that was my other big reason for wanting to go to SOU. I was like, I love school. Like, I actually enjoy it. Just sitting down with your peers and learning things and like working on shit and like having a routine set for you. Like, you have to go make a video about crabs or something in the ocean. I'm like, cool, I have to do that. That's my assignment. That gives me an excuse to take the camera out. And I was only taking classes I wanted by the time I got to SOU. So like taking that shitty, miserable experience of having to take those classes, like really drove me to want to go to school to get a good version of what I wanted originally. And some people just like school too. I don't know, for that reason.
I like learning.
Yeah, maybe that's more
I
accurate,
like learning.
honestly.
I have my issues with how the higher education is going. One thing I will say too, though, like I hated, general classes in education.
Yeah.
I definitely liked my upper division classes more. And my master's degree, like it honestly, and this is kind of my realization that I think, like college isn't hard. It's actually like, honest to God, like I think the hardest part is it's so damn easy and mind numbing the first few years, and you have to do shit you don't want to actually do.
Yeah.
And if you're not the type of person that falls in line, it's very, very difficult. But and this has been pretty eye opening.
You have to be passionate about
too.
Yeah, you have to be passionate, or at least have some kind of interest in some aspect of it if you're going to get through it. Like, that's the way I see it. Like, I've talked to people who say I knew college wasn't for me. That's why I went to the service. Like, I just hated it. And I'm like, I can totally understand that. Like, I hate a lot of it. The only parts I liked were, like you said, actually learning, or like meeting someone, or just the college experience, whatever that means.
And the college, I think there's a lot to be said about the college experience. It's a place, there's
That's
a lot
an ephemeral
of experience.
thing.
It's a place in society that you get experiences you literally can't get anywhere else. Like you just can't. I've recognized the inherent value of that. And I also recognize, I don't know if you knew this, it's in the Constitution that every state had to have a college because they valued, they so highly
at least
valued
the idea
education.
of education.
Yep.
If not, even if they all go to shit and they're all overrun by these bureaucrats.
It was very different. I mean, it was
of course.
obviously, very, very different. But the thing that has been kind of fun is the farther I get in education, like the master's degree, I think there's major flaws in our education system. Like one of them, like it just is really weird to me. And I've just recently found out, I know I already told you this, but I wrote a paper on neurodivergence in higher education. I'm dyslexic and ADD. Only 2% of people in higher education that graduate with a 4-year degree are dyslexic. So you can imagine how few actually go get a master's degree.
Yes.
And you have to have a master's degree to teach education, which means there's no neurodivergent people teaching education. So that's one thing to just keep in mind. But two, like it gets, the farther kind of the long you get in it, I was talking about how I don't like how it goes because you still have a lot of reading and writing, which honestly very few, like as a general skill in business, it's not that important to be a good writer. It just isn't.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like
you hire a copywriter.
There are very few things.
Or an AI to do it.
It's like there are very few things. Like if your core competency in your business needs to be a writer, then you need to be a good writer. But you don't need to be some all-star person that can cite peer-reviewed sources to convey an email. You don't need it.
Yeah,
that's one of my biggest complaints about it. But that's because I'm dyslexic and it's apparent. I mean, I haven't experienced it elsewise, but it takes me a very long time to write.
But still, like I would pretty much agree with that. Like it's just not required. Like the brief stint I had working in a corporate setting, like it's exactly what you're describing. There's different delegations of jobs to do different things. Like I remember taking a project or a question to this girl that worked a few cubicles down, and I was like, hey, the design on this page looks like a little wrong. I knew she did graphic design and stuff. She's like, oh no, that's the web design or catalog design person. I do the catalog design. I was like, how many fucking design jobs are there? Like I said it jokingly, but I'm like, dude, I think that was like a pretty profound, like how many, I was like, why is there a different Like, isn't that didn't you learn the same thing she learned in school? That's kind of what I'm bringing it full circle to, is like, this is all the same goddamn job. Like, and then, we just have all these people in these positions. It was like, so what do you like, what do you actually do? Like, what, like, they do the writing, they do the designing. Do you just say that looks good? Like, are you just an extra voice to make sure they're doing their job? Like, that's, I think what you're getting at is like, you're training in school. Basically, it sounds like so you can bypass all those other bullshit levels and be those, I guess, yeah, mid-level managers.
Yep.
Like it's just, you learn how to do everything that your team is doing just good enough to pass, I guess. You're doing everything the team is doing with very specific roles that they trained in or something, but you're just learning how to like manage over them or whatever.
I wish I could say you were learning how to manage in a master's
you might
business
not
administration, but you're just not.
Yeah.
Like you're learning all these other, and they're, and I'm getting an emphasis in marketing, but I mean, I don't even know if we want to get on the tangent of management, but
I mean, we definitely talked a lot about it. I know like the one main thing that I was my first note written down that we just went right into it. So fuck it. I want to just start with like advice for the entrepreneur, for the, person starting off. And again, I think this will help define the EI approach just as you talk about it, but just some like, cause I'm sure if there are any, aspiring entrepreneurs or even people who are trying to figure out what they want from their life, this was the main reason I brought you on. Dude. Because the lifestyle side of it, the financial side of it, like how to be successful in both ways to an extent. And you're also in the midst of discovering that as well. So to start off with like advice, or just quick things that define the EI approach and how it could help for people. In that sort of aspiring position where they're maybe uncertain, but even if they are pretty certain, I think your first big one was like set the goal or or I can't remember the word you used, but
figure out what you're trying to accomplish with your business.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want out of it?
But and like put it, don't just think like, oh, I just want it to do good. I just want to like, it sounds like it needs to be a little bit more concrete than that.
Yeah. So
I certainly didn't do that. I was like, I just don't want to fucking work for Harry and David in their video. I want to make my own videos, which is a good start, but like still to this day, I don't have like that nice, like you said, it's not something specific, it sounds like, but it's like a general sense of where you want to go. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you so much for this question, because I'm literally like in the process of a good friend of mine kind of talking through this, and it's really nice. I haven't been able to just articulate it this way. And to start out, like what we were talking just about before is a phrase from one of my favorite authors, Tim Ferriss, lifestyle design, which has had a major impact on me. And instead of like career planning or this and that, it's called lifestyle design. And it's like, what do you want out of your life? Like, what do you want your life to feel like? Like if you could sit there and just daydream, like and you could have anything you wanted.
Have a palace. With a tiger.
And whatever comes to mind is like, okay, now like reverse engineer it. How do you get there? Mm-hmm. That's huge. That's been such a huge impact, and that's kind of what I mean by saying start with what you're trying to get out of this. Because like I promise you, if somebody was to stop and be like, I want to be a business owner, it's like, no, you don't. And your goal should be, I mean, arguably, like if you just want to be a business person, you should build this business to sell.
Yeah.
Like either build your business to sell or build your business to get out of it. And that's just kind of that's kind of a general idea. To start with, but
I think a lot of people, I mean, when I say a lot of people, I can only speak anecdotally because I don't really have my ear to the pulse on a lot of culture. Those kind of podcasts that I listen to, but just from the people in my circles that I know, it's like, first thing is like defining meaning, like who do they want to be truly at their core? It's like everybody generally wants to be a good person. I generally think, and kind of do the right thing. They want to have like a sense of identity of some kind. And then after that, for better or worse, a lot of what I've been hearing is like, dude, I just want to make money and like be fine with that, So like, is that for one missing something from the EI approach? Like, would you encourage somebody from that perspective, like dig a little bit deeper past that surface level and like maybe think about, okay, but like,
here's something
or could somebody just be successful, be like, okay, if you just want to make money, here's 5 tools on the internet, go after it, and maybe you'll find happiness or whatever.
So it comes down to like, yeah, what is success? I mean, and to just be super broad, what is success to you? And one of the things I super encourage people is do not pursue money. There is an absolute, not for money's sake. And this was a camp that I was in for a long time. Never hated money, but I was never driven by money. And I'm still not driven by money, but what does drive me is the freedom that comes with money.
Yeah, exactly. The freedom that comes with it.
Yeah. Yep. But here,
the freedom of time, especially.
So that is exactly what I was going to say.
Time,
I just heard something
not of being
really
able to buy
recently.
Cheeseburgers.
No. And I just heard something recently, and I've known this for a long time. After a certain point, and it's $70,000 in America, there is no increased happiness that comes with money.
Right.
I
think it's probably higher now because of inflation.
Well, yeah, but right around. I mean, it's not a lot of money. I mean, it's like you have, it's not.
You don't think
it's
more
not
than
rich.
100?
It's not at all.
Really?
All you need,
Okay.
all you need is your bills paid enough to like have emergencies taken care of and plan for the future.
Insurance
You don't need a lot.
Right.
I mean, that's just from this, the statistics that people do. Now, there is a correlation between happiness is the amount of free time, the control over your time. That is something I just recently heard that I think I've inherently known for a long time. So there is, if you actually do want to be happier, don't necessarily pursue the money. Pursue the lifestyle that will give you the freedom of your time.
Yeah.
That's a big thing because making money is easy. Making money is easy. And you were asking about advice for business. And this was something I never had to say this to anybody before because I think kind of inherently I've been around just a lot of businessy type of people. But I'm recognizing now there's a lot of people that want that really don't actually know, for lack of a better term, and I love my buddy because he's in my mind. They don't know anything about business.
Yeah.
And he's gone pretty deep in the rabbit hole of like, hey, I've learned a lot about like pretty advanced, cool businessy stuff, but like business structures and tax loopholes and like how you can, move money around. It's like, yeah, this is all really, really cool. You don't need to be thinking about this for a long time.
Yeah.
A very, very, very long time.
It's like somebody who's really fascinated in quantum physics, but like still hasn't actually learned the algebra of how to do Newton's basic laws. It's like, that's another train I've been down recently. It's like we have this fascination with like the forefront of whatever some frontier is, but like we're not willing to like build the building blocks first at the beginning.
Dude, and this was...
It's like a human nature tendency to leap
for
ahead.
Sure.
You have to like keep yourself in check to like, okay, if I actually want to like care about this thing or get to that, I have to do this first.
And business is hard too because you have to have both of those mentalities. You kind of have to know where you're going and what you're doing now, and you don't really have anybody to guide you. But that's
a really good anecdote and piece of advice is like, or just I guess even realization from your part, just that you grew up, with a lot of people surrounded by people that had businesses or whatever. It sounds like, like you said, very blue collar working class, and again, speaking just anecdotally from experience, like not very many, like I probably was in a few degrees of separation from some of those people early on, but like being an introvert compounded on top of like just those core friends that I had, having no business, mindset or even leadership, I'd say a lot of the times, like I didn't have really that many friends that I truly looked up to as like leagues above the rest type of thing. Anybody that portrayed that level of, I wouldn't even say maturity, but just leadership in general, or like, because I think that's what somebody who can start a business is at least, if not a leader, somebody who knows how to get shit done.
Yeah.
I just, around here in this particular area anyways, I didn't have a lot of that. And I could totally see a lot of people in a lot of areas that aren't surrounded by people like that. They're more so sheep than lions, for better or worse, I guess.
I can remember the very moment that reality hit me. It was like, oh, actually not a lot of people had that. I was like, whoa, this has shaped a lot of what I see.
Yeah.
Coming back
and
to
you saying that now is shaping it for me. It's like, wow, that's crazy to think that someone like you, just grew up. It's like, oh yeah, I could open a shop if I wanted to, like that'd be super easy. And like, but my parents being like teachers and stuff, it's like, that's its own sort of path. Like they're kind of, that's what you work up to is like working for something. And if you're doing it for a good cause, good for you. But that's the goal, is to work for somebody for a good cause. Cause then you can feel at rest and you get nice benefits. It's like government, like that was kind of, and again,
comfortable.
Yeah, it's comfortable. And and pretty much all the adults that I knew that I talked to, which weren't a lot, but there weren't necessarily teachers, but you know, a lot of them were like the humanities sort of like branch of things,
White
like
collar stuff.
yeah, nursing or hospitals or yeah, substitute teachers. Like I don't know, yeah, and so yeah, hearing your perspective of like yeah, that was just second. It's like, oh, I could just open the family business. I could just open a market. I could do this if I wanted to. It's like, wow, that's crazy to know that people have that sense of like, yeah, I could just do that if I wanted to, like be in charge of something if I wanted to.
I do want to clarify just a little bit because like yeah, I do, but I had this other also pretty big realization because like I had the examples of a lot of entrepreneurs around me, but entrepreneurship was never, business ownership was never even discussed. It
Yeah.
was never encouraged. Like I think, well, it hasn't been mentioned yet, but I went to that entrepreneurship TV show, which I'll just might
Yeah,
as well
plug
do a
it.
shout out.
No, do it,
Beta
yeah.
Blocks season 6.
I wanted to bring that up. Yeah.
I did that, and I realized like because I know I've always had the internal kind of makeup of an entrepreneur, but it was never like it was never. I was a
Put
worker.
in your face.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was a worker. It was like you don't learn how to run a business. Like get in there and work.
Yeah, it's
so
like a
it
boot
was
camp for entrepreneurship, right? It's
What-
but a TV show. That's what this TV show
It
is.
was
It's
it was a basically a small version of a business accelerator turned into a kind of a reality TV show, but it had more to do with pitches and that type of stuff.
Was there any cakes you had to make or like any baking?
No, what it was
Is
is
there any
they,
Lego structures you had to like kick over?
no,
and
you would do
sabotage
different like pitches, and it was so like they
That's
would
badass,
You,
actually.
dude,
That
it
sounds
was
cool.
it was seriously one of the most impactful experiences of
Yeah, I
my
can
life.
imagine. What was the name of the show one more time?
Beta Blocks.
Beta Blocks. Okay. Listeners,
Wait a minute.
go find it.
No, I'm sorry because no, that's the actual accelerator. It's called The Blocks.
Okay. The Blocks is the show.
Yes.
Got it.
Blocks season 6. It's not out quite yet. They just came out with season 4, but it's very valuable.
Mm.
But either way, what I was getting to is like the guy that ran that, who does this. It was really kind of fascinating. He's a pretty successful guy, very entrepreneurial, has a very interesting background in reality TV show, which is why he started a reality TV show in business. But he told me, and it floored me. Like I met people here that went to business camp. This kid was telling me when his parents got him his first book on writing a
Wait, what is
business
business
plan.
camp? Sorry.
Yeah, I didn't even. It's like I
Okay,
guess
that's the
it's a
point.
camp that you learn
Like summer
businessy
camp?
stuff.
Instead
It's
of
a
learning
summer
how to
camp.
tie knots.
Yes,
or,
instead of going and
or
canoeing.
fat camp or whatever.
Yeah, these kids. I was like, that's a thing.
Business camp. Yeah.
I was like,
As
oh
kids?
my.
Like, how old?
As kids in high school. This is where
That's
people
still kinda
went and
crazy.
did. The dude that ran it, who's a few years older than me, like he was telling me his parents got him his first business planning book, like how to write a business plan in elementary school. Elementary school. So
That's
like,
insane.
so
People
there's
who-
definitely other people that are in, the other aspect of it. But I did have the privilege of like, growing up
That's crazy.
in the, kind of a rugged
Not
shop.
quite to that level. So you're saying
Not
this
at
is a
all.
spectrum. Like
Oh.
there's kids who go to business camp
I
at the
was-
age of 6, and then there's people who grow up, with a lot of business owners, and then there's people like me who just don't know shit.
Dude, and I
That's
was
crazy to think.
floored. I literally had no idea there was business camp. I was like, I didn't know there were business
I mean, it
books
doesn't
for
surprise me,
kids.
but yeah.
Yeah, so, but that was
That's
just one
insane.
thing that just amazed me. And gosh, how did we get onto that topic?
Well, it
about-
started with advice, and I
Yeah.
think there was something after that. But I
Yeah.
think the takeaway from that could be like, first, just recognizing from your own point of view that a lot of people are starting from different
Yes,
blocks
yes.
in the race, and they're just
Okay.
a few blocks ahead of you. But
Yes.
I don't know.
No.
I
And
don't know if
so
there's something
coming,
else you were gonna-
So coming back to like, so just having to recognize like where certain people are on that spectrum,
that
I
path.
guess. And the people I really am trying to help with the EI approach is like the people, a couple stages behind me that didn't have the parents or that type of stuff to kind of like help them, but they know they want to do their own thing. They know they don't like their, they're not going to get where they want with their life. And so with my buddy, he's going through his pipe fitter's apprenticeship right now, and he's very close to being a journeyman. But he's like, I want to do something different. He's one of the most talented artists I've ever met in my entire life.
Oh, wow.
He's amazing. You
What
cannot,
kind of art?
Huh?
What kind of art? Like digital art?
He first started doing, I remember in high school, he did a pencil drawing that looked like an absolute real picture. But he taught himself 3D printing. He taught himself digital artistry, all this type of stuff, but didn't have the guidance and like, you know, the support to kind of like
market it.
Yeah, to go down there and quite frankly was really taken advantage of by his family and the small business that they were running, and not running well.
Do you think he sees that in hindsight? Like,
100%. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
And so now what he's doing is he's like, hey, I think I want to do this. I kind of want to like, you know, I want to make money because I try to encourage him all the time. I'm like, dude, you are unbelievably talented. Like seriously, you have skills that the vast majority of the world will never be able to have. You can't train this.
Right.
And so it was really interesting talking with this guy because I was like, okay, I know where you've come from, and you don't have a lot of business background.
I want to. Sorry, for some reason.
Hold on, let me finish this thought.
I was just gonna say finish.
Yeah,
what
I
want to
finish this thought because I'm sitting here and he's like, I want to start this stuff, and he's talking about these complicated kind of ideas. And the first thing that I said to me, because a lot of people I say, go start this, go do this, and I just told him, and this is for everybody. First piece of advice: if you want to. First thing you need to do in starting a business is learn how to make money, because that is something.
I'm gonna pause on that.
Yeah.
Learn how to make money.
Because that is something that is not taught in school. Making money is easy, very easy. You're already doing it. If you have a job, you know what you're doing. So like that's the very first thing. Go figure out how to make money. And here's the thing. You can make money.
And what you're saying is like it's easy to get a job, therefore it's easy to make money, basically.
You can literally, if you're getting paid for a job right now, you can go start a business doing that. Because you have the skills, there's a proven concept, there's a market that will pay you for this. I mean, and that's a really bad rudimentary example. I could come up with a dozen examples that don't fit. But for instance, like some of the examples I was explaining to another student there, like I have heard and know of many other businesses that like most people won't ever think of because they really think of your typical structured thing. But like, here's a business anybody could start right now is going and picking up dog poop from neighborhood front yards.
Yeah.
And if you go get on a schedule where you're like, you pay me $20 a week, I'll come once a week to pick up your dog poop, and you go and you get 10 people on that block, you can do that in an hour and a half and you can make $200 an hour.
Yeah.
Any human being can do that. Another amazing one to do. Dog walking, cleaning.
Your more creative ideas, but that's the.
I wouldn't. There are endless creative ideas, but like just go learn, go make money. It doesn't matter if you have a business because legally you are what's considered a sole proprietor if you go and try to make money. And there's obviously you don't want to make a ton of money before you go set things up.
Too quick,
But that's the very first thing is like sit there and learn how to make money because everybody thinks I got to start a bakery or have the studio. No, you don't. I guarantee you can go make money doing anything. Go buy somebody's groceries.
This is golden content right now.
This is just go make money. There is anything.
This trending on TikTok now.
I would hope so. And there's countless TikToks out there of like side hustles. Just go do any of them.
Yeah. And every year my mom would be like, we'd be driving around. She'd be like, you know what you and your brother ought to do? And like, I credit her for this because she was probably trying to instill that. But this is a whole other aspect of human nature we could get to, which is laziness, which is why picking up is so valuable because you're willing to do it. Like the fact that you are willing to do it is what makes it valuable. Nothing else. Like that's what blows my mind about this shit. But she would always tell us, go around and offer to hang Christmas lights for old people. They have a ton of money. Just do that.
Yeah.
And she also told me like to go make videos, film old people, just have a conversation with them because a lot of them are retired. Some of them don't have money, but a lot of them do, and all they want to do is just talk to somebody about their war stories, and you could film that and sell it to them. I'm like, dude.
That is literally
like
that is what YouTube and TikTok is these days.
Yeah.
Like some of the biggest platforms are just that.
Yeah.
And that really goes, I mean, just one of my favorite topics. It goes to
But learning how to make money, dude, that's so deep. But go on. Yeah. Learn how to make money. Don't learn how to bake cookies. Don't learn how to do a trade or a craft. How to make money doing something dumb.
And here's a scary thing that I was not taught. It doesn't require hard work. Hard work and making money are not synonymous. Get that out of your fucking head. Most of the people that work the hardest make the least amount of money. The ditch diggers and the roofers, and roofers can make good money. But like, get that out of your head. And I was taught at a very young age how to work hard. I can outwork damn near anybody. That's not how you make money.
Yeah.
So
It might be starting. It's the easiest way, I would say, in the
it's-
sense that you can get a grunt job the easiest because not many people do it.
You cannot be successful without some sort of work ethic.
Yeah, right.
But you will not, like, to be successful, you can't hard work your way out of there.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah.
There's way better ways of doing it.
Exactly. There's better ways. It's getting easier and easier to not have to trade your labor, your body energy. You don't have to work with your hands as much as your mind now.
Well, and some of like the lessons that I've
Maybe.
learned, like one of the things, here's a skill anybody can learn. It is actually probably the most valuable skill in business. That if you want to learn how to make money and you want to be a killer and you want to be rich, learn how to sell. And it's not that hard. There are countless
Learn
books.
how to make money, learn how to sell.
The easiest way to make
step
money.
1 and 2.
Well,
Kids,
actually,
take notes.
yeah, if it will actually learn how to sell is like even that's just
Before?
a good idea. Like,
Just
hey,
in
if you
general.
want to make money, if you can learn that skill how to sell, like you will go make money anywhere because like you can go sell other people's things to other people. That's what a middleman is.
Yeah.
And there you won't make any more money than you will in sale. I mean, the most amount of money you'll ever make is building a business. The most amount of money you'll ever make as a job is in sales. One of the best businesses you can make is a sales business.
Yeah, right.
Which is why I'm doing insurance and digital things.
To put your practice into preach and
Yeah.
put your preach into practice. Yeah.
But so that's like one of them is, and I am still learning that lesson. I did
And
not
selling
learn that
digital
lesson.
stuff, and that's another thing that what's his name talked about. David, what was, I don't remember his name on the podcast. I should
Oh
know.
yeah, I didn't even look at those guys' names.
But anyways, it's one of the things he talked about is like one of the first questions is like, yeah, you don't tend to invest very much in products, in like physical, tangible things, merchandise. Can't remember the business name for that, but he's like, you do a lot of digital. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I mean, there's just no overhead.
Dude.
Like, why wouldn't you? Like,
So,
I'm like, bro. So like anything digital that you produce it once, you pay the upfront cost of producing it once. This is also, yeah, I'm sure really new. Like Bill Gates pioneered this. Is like making money off of something digital that you don't have to produce over and over. Blows my mind. Like
This is a principle that I have just recently
pisses me
learned.
off that I have to pay $60 for Call of Duty still, even though
Yep.
I'm downloading it.
Yep.
I'm like, what the fuck, dude? This disc, there's no way this disc in this shitty box costs $60 already. But now I'm really not paying. I don't even get a limited edition box. Like,
Right.
what is this? So yeah, digital.
So this has been one of the other lessons that I've learned, and this is far from like what I would say is the very basics of business. But one of these lessons that I've learned recently,
Another quote unquote easy way to make money is sell something digital somehow.
it's so where I'm going to go with this. I'm not going to say it's the easiest.
Hmm.
I will say it's probably the best. And here is another lessons that I've learned, and this don't get this confused with like this is not step number 1, 2, or even 10.
Yeah.
This is a principle to understand that like don't get lost in this, but not every business opportunity is created equal. And that has been something that like was really a tough lesson to learn because I was raised on the fact that hard work is inherently valuable. And so the harder you work, the more valuable it should be. And it's not true.
Right. It's not a one-to-one trade-off.
It's not true. And what that podcast was specifically talking about, quite frankly, like an opportunity to like, we'll use digital and physical products. I will use my specific examples. I used to own a fabrication and machine shop. I wrote a business plan on this business for my bachelor's senior project. And the average profit margin for that in the time, so 15 years ago, 8% profit margin, because the amount of money that you spend in steel and components and all of this stuff. And I had to have incredible experts that knew how to do all of this stuff. Yes, the labor was so like I had to have experts. If you want to be a machinist, that is a very, very high skilled thing. So it was like, okay, you can have a product where like you have a ton of overhead. You have to go cut, build all of this stuff, and like you have to have all of the equipment to move it,
Probably
and
a lot of
all of the
insurance, too.
experts, a ton of insurance, and you're gonna make 8% on it.
Yeah. There's probably
Or-
other jobs that are not quite at 8%, but
No, fabrication
self-
machining is at the top of the
but that's
shittiest
cool that
ones
you
you
were
can
at.
do.
Yeah, you
Yep.
you were
Yep.
at that extreme. Of
I was
the
at
shittiest,
that extreme
next
of
to
like
cutting trees and actually being at the highest risk of death. You're probably at the highest risk of
oh yeah
financial death. Yeah.
Oh, it's rough. And then like having, just that was a very interesting point in life. But just having that realization, and I was like, I don't want to make my money with my back anymore. And then getting slowly realizing like, okay, I can literally, so what I'm doing with insurance now, I'm this is what all sales is. As
Yeah.
I can, there's a whole other carrier that has created this financial product and
Yeah.
spent and literally has to carry trillions of dollars. There's a customer that absolutely has a desperate need for this.
Yep.
And if I am just the person that can come in and make one phone call in between
Yeah.
and have that person send this person an email, I have nothing to lose but my time.
Yeah.
Literally, to get into that industry. This is why I've gotten back into the insurance company. I don't think you can make more money for the amount of time and money spent than you can in that, because you are selling high ticket digital products. You literally only need a license and a cell phone and computer, and you should get a subscription to the software I'm building because you'll make a
There
lot
you
more
go.
money, I think.
Shout out. Yeah, but that's another, avenue of success one can find is like, don't put so much faith in trying to work your way out of a given problem, or not focusing on profit margins, because when you look at things in that way, and so what's an example of something at the other end of the spectrum? I was just going to say for the listeners and for me as well, being a noob, what's the other end of the spectrum of profit margins wise in the digital space? Like
Insurance, literally life insurance. That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing right now. So on average, because I have to start a life insurance agency, you have to get licensed, which costs like $200. You don't even need a website. You need a cell phone. To get all in, it's probably about $500 to be able to actually sell these products. And then your expenses from there are leads, so you can create your own. You don't even have to buy them, but you're done. That is your entire initial
create
investment.
your own as in like literally door to door and like
You could, or you start a Facebook page, or you can go use your family. I mean, the best way, I'm not saying it's the right way, but the best way is to go buy leads, which is fine. You can still make a ton of money. Let's just say you're going to go that way. You spend
Yeah.
$1,000 a week in leads, and you're just calling people.
Yeah.
And you will quadruple your money.
Yeah.
That is literally all you need to do. You can make $1,000 a day if you spend on average, if you spend. I broke down the math. My agency, because I want to have a very lead agency, and if you can sell on average, you make $800 on a policy, and the system that I have, you should be able to do it. And this is a little off topic, but you should be able to do that whole process in about a half an hour to an hour. Most people without that system have to put a lot more work into it. But
Sure.
if you sell one policy,
But all of these things you're putting work into are like a one and like when you do it
Yes.
once, it's done.
Yes.
Like it's just like building any software,
Yep.
any video game.
Yep.
There's
And
always going to be a little bit maintenance on the back end, maybe that you have to do. But
yeah, there will definitely be, and adding more users and putting in new campaigns.
Yeah.
But if you can, with this, if you sell one policy every other day, you can take 2 months off of working and still make $100,000. And it costs you $500 to get into it.
yeah. What's that margin? You do the math.
Literally, and that's what he's talking
Yeah.
about with digital products. And not only that, dude. So that's one aspect. Actually, even a better aspect, which I am incredibly excited about this, but I try not. It feels very much kind of boastful. But another better product than life insurance is the other business that I'm doing, which was creating a software as a service. Because
Yeah.
that system that I've created, which is like almost officially done.
Oh, nice.
Once that's done, all I have to do is sell that to agents. And my end goal, and I think it's worth it, I think I can get $500 a month for that software.
Yeah.
That is recurring revenue every month that I have to sell one time to somebody.
Yeah.
And I get $500 from them every month in perpetuity. Like,
Yeah.
that's
The
phenomenal.
subscription service is like something that flipped the economy on its head too. Of a way to make
Phenomenal.
money.
And,
yeah.
and that's what I mean by better opportunities. Because like even life insurance is great, but that's a one-time sale.
Yeah.
If you can get, and that's a big
You
sale.
have to keep putting hours in to keep getting it
Yep.
back, basically.
Yep. But if I sell a subscription, a high ticket subscription that
Yep.
has no overhead,
Yeah.
I mean, my profit margin, like, it's
Infinite.
in the high 90%.
Yeah.
Um,
And so it's, and this is just more kind of general financial advice. Hashtag not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor.
We are not experts.
Yeah. But like that's one you hear like everywhere you go. It's like, create passive income. That's just a general like find a way to create passive income, you know, whether it's like as an income, you don't have to keep putting time up, sell something digital on a storefront online on a WordPress or whatever. And, you know, like, and again, the analog for video, it could be either stock footage or just your LUTs, like creative, like color filters you make at the low end, you know, not as high of a profit margin, but yeah, it's one of those things you create once and then post somewhere and sell digitally.
So I would actually, I don't know, I don't want to say push back or correct, but like what you just explained, I don't see as, and let's go back to the EI approach. I don't see that as necessarily the passive aspect of it. I see that as the exponential income aspect of it.
Okay.
Because like, and they're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
But like the passive, I mean, because it is passive once it's built, but I think there's more value in looking at it as the exponentiality of it too. Because like when I think of passive, this isn't the best example, but is like a rental income, you know, but that's set, but it's passive, but you're only getting $500 a month unless you buy another house.
That probably is a better way to think about it, because I think that is what a lot of people think of when they think of passive income, is something that's more finite.
I would put that in the enduring investments of the EI approach, like but you can build those softwares, like you have these opportunities with your LUTs.
Yeah.
That is exponential income opportunity, which is phenomenal, dude. And like, you know, this has kind of been around for a while, like with artists and other.
This light is just kind of blinding me. It's like actually hurting my eye.
It's a very, very blue light.
I'm like, I like it, but I just need it to be better. I just wanted a cool visual effects, you know. But at what cost?
Oh man, my eyes are like,
yeah, damn, that
Calming
actually
down.
looks different. I didn't think it would really matter if we were looking at each other, but that's why I did this. This is the guinea pig run.
For sure.
I'm not going to blind anyone anymore now.
No, for sure.
Your retina's paid the price already.
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. But sorry, yeah. You were talking about
so the exponentiality,
and the LUTs and like
the LUTs, yes.
Those not necessarily think of it as passive, but something you could constantly improve on, or something you could constantly put work into.
I would even say it's better than passive. Like, man.
Because you could always sell more of it. You could always make more from it.
Yes. And in my mind, like passive is like set, you know, can you get more rental income? Yes, but you got to go buy another house.
Right. Exactly.
And it is linear. It's not exponential. So passive income is almost the way that I maybe would define it. Passive income is linear. Yep. And you're going to get the same.
And you're in the EI, baby. This isn't the LI.
Yeah.
This is the EI, baby.
For sure.
We're in the exponential growth model. Which this is just quickly for listeners, like just understanding the value of thinking exponentially rather than linearly can be so valuable in so many ways of life. Like, and I think as humans, I think I heard it explained this way by whatever those people that study the mind are these days.
Psychologists?
Well, they're all quacks.
Yeah.
No, but people who are smarter than me anyways, what they say is our brains aren't wired to think exponentially. Like they're meant to think very linearly in growth. Like we have a hard time fathoming exponential growth. Man, there were some really great examples. One of them, it was talking about physics in the universe, like the way it's expanding. But it was also, God, like I want to say it was even like it had to do with investing. Like people don't think that like. They don't think about how quickly money can compound the earlier you start. Like they don't think that's what it was about. Like they don't think that there's as much value starting 5 years sooner rather than 5 years later, how much of a difference that'll make down the line, because we think in terms of like our lifespan, it's just very linear, you know, or just time. But yeah, like, so embracing that mindset, this is part of the EI approach, exponential everything. Like think about growth exponentially, which means maybe not as quick starting off, but it rises quicker.
That asymptote.
Yeah. Asymptote. Is that a math term?
Yep, it is. And it's actually that exact curve of like linearly, but you can't ever really approach zero.
Right.
One thing I did want to say, which I think is kind of exciting, I think I invented a word on that concept that you were just talking about. And this might actually be a better word for the book instead of the EI approach, but exponentiality.
Exponentiality.
Yes. And just, it should go much farther than this definition, but the ability...
Expotential.
Yes, it is the...
Interesting.
To what degree does a process or a product have the ability to have exponential returns?
Definitely don't. I think that's kind of good, dude. I wouldn't give that out too much, that idea. Honestly, like I think that's a really, I don't know, clever little idea potentially. But I want to hear you explain it.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with the EI approach, but it is like looking at business, and a lot of people will look at it as like scalability.
Yeah.
Which I think is you could maybe
I think that's pretty well
substitute
understood.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
business.
exponentiality, because like here's the thing, there's no exponentiality in a rental house.
Okay.
It's it. It's only linear.
This is how you would use the
Yes.
word in the field, like
Yes.
Okay.
But my software as a service, has not unlimited exponentiality because you can't sell it to everybody.
Yeah.
But it can, multiply. Like, can it hit that asymptote type of growth?
Yeah.
Does it have that ability to exponentially grow? And, exponentiality, exponents, if you're not a math whiz, they can be misleading. You can have straight lines with exponents.
Yeah, I
and
guess
they
you
can.
can.
Yeah.
If the exponent is 1, right?
It's, I think,
Otherwise-
yeah, and even if you do like it gets deeper than
I guess
really
it does,
know.
yeah.
If you get into like,
Because you can make like the weird
ratios.
parabolas if you're
Yeah.
using a 2-dimensional graph.
Yeah. So for exponentiality, just think of the asymptote.
Yeah, the exponential growth line.
Yes.
Like,
And from a business standpoint, this is something like a fabrication and machine shop has almost no exponentiality because
Yeah.
it has a little bit of like a franchise. They would call, that's what a franchise is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you can kind of exponentially grow with this kind of to
Sure.
an extent, but there are other certain things, and digital products are a great one, or, something that's very easily replicated and that type of stuff. Okay. Like you can have a lot of growth, or something that has,
like how much potential
Intrinsic-
does this have for growing exponentially?
yes,
is
exactly.
really what it is.
That's
It's like-
exactly potential to grow exponentially.
yeah.
Um,
Which, yeah, like you're saying, and or to use the other crude example of just working at a retail store, like you only have the option of growing linearly
Yep.
as you get a pay raise. Like that's
Absolutely.
the only way
Yes.
you can grow
Yep.
financially.
And and there are other aspects too of like, for instance, with my software, I am building my software to work for insurance agents, but I recognize that a lot of the effort that I'm putting into this works very well for any digital high ticket product. So what I want to transition to is wills and trusts for lawyers. And it's basically, so it's like, okay, if I build this whole thing and I can get it going, great. It's like, great. I can take that framework that I know works. I know how to get leads. I know how to nurture them. And it's going to be different from that industry to the other, but
Yeah.
I got 80% of the framework. Boom. I could take that 80%, throw it over here. I've already like the time spent is now even continually growing, and I'm still making all of this money from the life insurance.
From the last thing, yeah.
And the other thing too, like more is with life insurance. I have that system. I know that nurture system is going to work. I can continue to throw different lead sources in there for different niches.
Yeah.
Like I can, for diabetics, it's like, okay, and all I have to do is put a tiny bit more effort into it, and I get this exponentially more gains, or even. Same
Yeah.
thing with that system. I have all of these clients. Now, if I get another line of insurance, like health insurance or
Right.
Medicare,
Use that
I
same
have
system
all
for
of these
this.
people that have already trusted
built in
me.
place, yeah.
They already know me. Boom.
And this is and this really again gets to exponential growth. Like what happened before adds to what you're doing now, and that all adds to what you're about to do next. Like when you're thinking about things that way, it leads to another rule. Just again, a general rule out there. This isn't even advice. It's just kind of a rule that I came to that really helped me understand like how to be successful financially. Is the more money you have, the easier it is to make.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
The more money you have, the
It's a
easier it is to
tool.
make. It's an like the more you have, it's easier to make. And that's why you see it's so hard for people at the lowest end, because they have to literally pull themselves up by the most bootstraps to make money. They have to start from zero.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why so many people don't get off the ground, because you're literally at the hardest point. But
Yep.
once you start that momentum like going, it's going to get easier. I wish people more.
Dude.
Another reason I wish more people thought exponentially about money and more things in life in general, really, It's always like that, you know.
Well, I think what you just explained
That's
is
what
really,
acceleration is
yeah.
exponential growth.
And
you
I
know?
think, yeah, you just explained it pretty well. Like, kind of, you know, what I'm trying to hopefully try to explain to people is like, yeah, it does take a lot of work up front that you're not going to get
Yeah.
necessarily a lot from, because it is a lot harder
Yeah.
to start. But that's kind of what entrepreneurship is about. That's what if you want those types of gains, if you want that type, you got to put that risk in.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say too is going with this exponentiality. I think that, you know, and I'm really thinking out loud right now, that's like kind of that link between, in the EI approach, the exponential income and expanding influence, is those are very much tied together. And like that expanding influence, which is seriously one of those things that is really, really new for businesses, for our society in general, is like any Joe Blow can have a ton of influence.
Okay. Right.
And
I was going to ask you to define expanding influence, but I think that's the perfect definition. Literally anybody can have influence.
Yes,
and
and
influencer is a job title. That's
it
what,
is. And like, and I used to hate that, but to be
Right.
quite frank, like
gotta
the
just embrace it.
influencer,
Yeah.
the influencer is the first people, and the EI approach is
They're the
not like
thought
something.
leaders. Let's be real.
Yeah, the EI approach is not something I've come up with. It's just something I'm trying to define.
It's something you've synthesized.
Trying, yeah.
Yeah.
And the influencers have figured this out. The YouTubers have figured this out. Like, they already know these things.
Mr.
And
Beast, yeah.
Yeah,
We've talked
exactly.
about him before, yeah.
And so, like, just trying to explain that. But now, I mean, we really do, people, like, these options were not available. Like, with that growth, with that expanding influence, you know, because it has so much exponentiality in there, because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, once you kind of have some business acumen or whatever it might be, you know, whatever influence you might have in this certain area, like, you can use that in so many new ways. Like with the internet, it's like, oh, hey, I'm an expert on, oh, I have a YouTube channel, or I know about business, I can start a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Like Alex Hermosi, I don't know if you know who that guy is.
No.
He's one of the major up and coming young entrepreneurs.
YouTuber or?
Yep, YouTuber, but a business dude who is now finally figuring out that this is important. Which I would really like to talk to that guy. I think him and I could get along really well.
There's so many people like that are just like a few leagues above me. I'm like, dude, I know I could hold a conversation.
Oh, without
At
a
this
doubt.
point in my life, I know I could at least hold a conversation. I just need to do shit like this so that I can get on their radar.
Yep, 100%.
That's my goal. That's what I'm. That's a tangible target I can strive for. So I'm with you on that. That's a good one.
And when he even admits it, he's like, I used to think that, like, with business, he's like, if I just put all the right X's and O's in the right places and do the right sales, like, I can make a ton of money. And he's like, and then
Is that not the case?
no, not if you want to make a ton of money.
Okay.
It's different. No, and this is where it
Interesting.
comes with the expanding influence. And he's like, and then I started seeing people like, and these are the examples.
Jake Paul.
No, who's that? I forget, the makeup girl, the Kardashian, the youngest one, Jenner, Caitlyn Jenner. No, that's the. I don't know. The youngest
It was
Kardashian
Chloe
who now has
or-
maybe.
It's either.
No, I don't even.
They
I
all
don't
start
think
with
it's Chloe.
K, so it's either
It's not Kim or Chloe.
it's either Kim or Chloe.
No, there's a youngest. And
There's a younger
And I
one?
think it might be Jenner. Her name might be Jenner.
Oh, after the dad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Yeah.
people that are more into that know more. She's the first or like the youngest self-made billionaire.
The fact that we don't know that, listeners, means you should trust us.
For sure, yeah.
That means
For sure.
we know
Yes.
we're not so indoctrinated.
Yes,
into the,
but well, so he uses that example, but he also used the example of Conor McGregor and The Rock. And he
Okay.
realized, he's like, I was opening up these articles because Alex knows a lot about business. These people don't.
which people,
But
Connor and
Connor and this girl that does the makeup
Oh,
and The
okay.
Rock, but they have
Influence.
a ton. They have an amazing brand, which is influence. And he realized, like, so The Rock literally became like a billionaire because he started a private label alcohol company.
Yeah.
So now, just because that right there is like the best example of expanding influence. Like Conor McGregor, same thing. He's a fighter, and yeah, he made a lot of money as a fighter. He makes a fuck ton of money on his alcohol brand.
Yeah, right. Dude, alcohol brand. That I don't know when that was cracked, but dude, I've been seeing so many, like,
Not
Post
long.
Malone has his own. It's been recent.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Connor.
Oh, I just meant like in general, because I see
Yeah.
a lot of celebrities doing that. I'm like, I bet the margins on that are pretty good.
It's
alcohol.
it's not only that, it's so simple. It doesn't even matter the margins because
It's just your
literally they're
name.
just capitalizing on their influence.
Yeah, but why? I wonder why alcohol though. Like, because they could sell other stuff. I think
yeah,
alcohol is just maybe it's
Because
sell it for
it's
more.
It's
easy
one
to
of
sell
those
for more.
products that everybody's going to come back and buy more.
Mm.
Same thing. It's like that subscription model.
Oh, I
Buy
see.
something that they consume,
Okay.
not
Not a one time and
Yep.
discard or one time and
Yep.
interesting.
So food is a great one. That's why Mr. Beast Burger is a brilliant idea
Yeah,
because
food
they're
is
going to
good,
continue to
especially
eat it.
burgers.
And
And that's another reason why machining, to go back to your old example, probably not as good. Although you have repeat people that rent from you
for
in
sure.
that sense.
And
Maybe that's the one place.
well, and to understand too,
But there could be
like
worse where, yeah, you're selling somebody something for one time, like a computer desk or something. I don't know.
and again, like I said, every opportunity is different.
Yeah.
Like food has restaurants that are not a good business to get into, but selling things that people eat continuously can be a great business model. And it really depends too, because you make a ton of money on slim margins, which restaurants, so there's no one cut way in business.
But yeah, talking about the influence is like, it seems like, to be successful, we all have all these various dials that define to what level we possess this particular quality at life. We all have these dials, and people who have their dial of influence turned to 10, they don't really need any of the other dials to be turned up, because they can do a lot more with that. Like, that was another realization I had, is like, the only reason they're watching him, he's not really good at video. He's not really good at any of this stuff, but his dial for influence or for sociability or for extrovertedness is already at 10. So it just makes it easier for him to do those other 7 things or whatever, That's kind of how I've been thinking about it.
Yeah. And this reminds me of something that, something I've been wrestling with for a while. And you talked about it. We started talking about it at the beginning. Talking about like cinematography and videography. And like one thing that irks me, I shouldn't even say that. It's a great learning experience, but like, and I talked about Mr. Beast last time we were doing it. Like, one of the things that I have a hard time accepting is that our society gives a tremendous amount of value, and that's what I want to talk about, to entertainment.
Yeah.
And to celebrities. And it pisses me off.
Dude,
because there's
crazy.
nothing, I mean, I can't say that.
To entertainment in general. You could just leave it at that. Like, it's just a sports, like the whole gamut of the entertainment industry is, which there's so many rabbit holes you could go down that, but finish.
But I would just kind of say, I feel like that's what cinematography is. Is it's inherently, and it used to irritate me, but
in the entertainment.
But the most influential people on this planet, well, I won't say that, in the EI approach spectrum, are musicians. And quite frankly, if musicians were removed off of this planet, the planet would function just as fine.
I don't know, man. I really think people need music at a deeper level.
I think yes, I think it speaks, and that's one of the things that I'm recognizing. It's like, okay, and it really speaks to
there's
value.
a reason there's so much money in the music industry, because like, it's a deep crave. Like, I think. Anyways,
no, it 100% is, and that's one of the things that I have to like, I am coming to terms with, is it's like, I think music is, but to be totally honest with you, I think most of the musicians that are really popular are fucking garbage.
Yeah.
You're worthless. You have no talent. You are simply made. You are a ugly tattooed persona that is auto-tuned to the nth degree.
And you just had more, again, I think it just came down to one of those dials being more dialed.
That
like they were more sociable, I think, or right place, right time sort of dial.
In my opinion, musicians were just willing to sell their souls. That influence, you can gain that influence in a heartbeat. These media, these big companies, they know how to make you famous. Yeah. Look at most of the people.
I almost feel like if I went on TikTok tomorrow and said I love Hitler and started saying a bunch of shit, be a lot of bad publicity.
I mean, look at Kanye.
Publicity, yeah, exactly. It's like, you're gonna get clicks. You're gonna get
sure.
Like, that's maybe the most crude example, but to talk about the ease of money, it's like, maybe money not right at first, but to get influence, I feel like is pretty easy probably. And speaking from someone who doesn't do that or have that at all, but if in principle, I think I really wanted to, I could leak a sex tape or I don't know, something,
for sure.
But just say something profound or release one of these videos could go viral on TikTok.
Just a quick to interject. Making money is super fucking easy. The easiest way to do it is sell your soul. And you can do that in corporate finance. That's a fast way of doing it. But you can do it in a ton of, go be an OnlyFans.
You used to have to go to the devil to do it. Like, you used to have to.
I mean, you want to go make a lot of money, like, just go get a video camera and spread your legs on TV.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, on the internet. You can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sell your soul.
That is like the lowest end of the spectrum, but I think it's worth including in this model of like, embracing the idea that it is easy to make money.
Totally. And
Like,
I'm for sex workers, by the way.
yeah,
I think
go for it.
sell your body.
If anything, they should have the legal, again, a whole other
Yep, yeah,
conversation. But
totally.
they did that experiment somewhere in some country recently where they legalized it in some city for a while, and like, you know, they were able to regulate it and keep everyone safe, and like
Totally.
it was fine.
Yep.
Just like, wow, yeah, prostitution is fucked up. And you hear about some of these stories from these prostitutes that all this shit that has happened in their lives. I'm like, wow, that's fucking crazy.
Totally.
But anyways, yeah, just to talk about, yeah, the ease of making money. It's like, yeah, the very lowest way, yeah, sell your soul, quote unquote,
Yeah.
whatever that means to you. And yeah, some people just have that dial of willingness turned up more high.
Absolutely.
And that's why they can succeed. It's like, it's almost like if you have any of those dials turned to 10, the rest can come afterwards, almost like maybe, I don't know.
Going back to the question you asked, some advice.
Yeah.
Opening advice. This was the thing that I have had a major shift in business.
Mm.
I used to think that you had to get everything right in business, that you had to have everything perfect, and then by your lucky stars, you might be able to make it. Like I am,
And even then, by the
Even
slimmest
then,
of margin,
you
dude, it's
might
because you're
be
coming
able-
from that profit margin of 8%. You're like,
Yeah.
there's an 8% chance I will succeed.
for sure.
That's
And
the
succeeding is
definition.
like just not working for
just
somebody
not
else.
fucking up. Yeah.
Yeah. Business is so easy to not screw up.
Yeah.
Everybody has been misled. Like there's a lot of things. There's like a few things you just cannot do that will
Yeah.
kill your business. There are countless things. I would say the vast majority of things that you can think of in a business, you don't have to do well or even good. And most of them you can do below average. Most of them you can. There's a few things you can't do. You can't run out of money. Like that's
Yeah.
almost like
That's the first rule, though, isn't it?
pretty much, but most people but most people honestly skip the first step of making money.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, you have to make money and you can't run out of it. But like almost everything else, like you don't have to have good marketing or accounting or training or personnel or anything like you. There are very, very, very few things you have to have in place to make money in business and to make good money in business.
Yeah.
If you actually get one of them figured out well, you're going to be a medium-sized business. If you figure out two of them,
Get money and don't run out of money.
and
This is what it
that will
starts
you
with.
can become a multimillionaire on those two principles alone and not having one idea
just
about
figure it
business.
out after that,
Of
yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Like you can. I mean, I literally my father
There,
was a
you just
fantastic
graduated with
example.
an MBA. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah.
Glad I sat you down. Your business schooling is done.
Yeah.
We've showed.
Yeah.
You've showed prowess.
For sure. And here's one of these things too. People think that you have to make. You got to have everything right. Sales cures all in business. If you make a lot of money, you don't
does
have to
that
do
mean?
anything else right. If you sell a lot of shit, you don't have to have anything else right. And there are so many other things that you can do in business to be successful. Like, and I
And
don't
all of
want to
the-
mislead
and
people.
all of the things like marketing are just trying to help you sell better. But if you can just naturally
That's
do
for
it,
the big guys.
Yeah,
That's
right.
for the big guys. Like, I have an uncle, and, growing up, he did not get the respect that he deserved for what he was good at. He is a contract worker. He is not known for doing the best work at all. At all. This dude is a fucking stud at getting customers and getting paid.
That's crazy. Sounds like he's in the wrong line of work then to me. It just
He-
sounds like he could be doing that exact thing.
He
not-
could, but he'd
not
have to work for somebody else.
Moving his body.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
He
guess so.
also didn't learn how to read till he was 30 years old, and by that time he had like a crew of I think over 50 people. So
fucking
just
amazing.
understand this, people. There are literally multimillionaires out there that don't know how to read.
That's a little bold. I don't know.
No, it's
You
true.
really
I,
think
I,
that-
I know it's true. My
thought-
uncle is one of them. I mean,
don't
he
know how to
he
read.
told me he learned how to read on road signs going to his jobs.
How old is he? Do you know?
Oh, he's retired now. I mean, he's
Okay.
probably 72.
Yeah, I was gonna say like maybe it's a generational thing, but I don't know how many multimillionaires are that
Dude,
old or
The last boss that I worked for, granted, he's very, very smart. I don't think he had a college education at all. He's a welder, and welders are notoriously like rough, and you're usually there because
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of other options.
I'd love to interview a welder, dude. Like one of the trades that's like you almost just love to think that it's just always going to be around, and it's such a technical, like it's such a beautiful like part of engineering. I don't know. I always like fascinated by it from an engineering. Like it's just the nitty gritty, and it's like when I heard it was like the underwater welders like the highest paid salary. I was
yeah.
like, wow, no shit.
Yeah.
And thinking about generally about the future in AI, the future of jobs and stuff, it's like, wow, that's some shit that like would be really hard to get a machine to get perfect because it's just going to be around, dude. Like it's going to be one of those legacy things. Like if all other jobs go extinct, there'll still be welders almost. Like that'd be a beautiful.
Sure. You're not getting rid of blue collar workers. Yeah. Like you can't. They're the most human.
Elon said that himself. He's like, I can't. It's so hard if a screw falls on the floor to have a machine know how to pick it up and put it back. Like those stupid little things. Yep. Like you have to have humans to do and pay them to do. Like.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, you were just talking about your uncle, and so, this is something for people to understand. It's like reading is a skill, writing is a skill, learning how to make sales, sell your shit, sell yourself is a skill. You know, learning how to market yourself is a skill. Like these are all different skills, and if you know how to market yourself, the other skills don't necessarily matter.
If you know how to do like any of these things, like honestly, I would say the biggest thing that separates workers and their bosses, or the entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurs, was just having the courage to say, I'm going to do it myself. That doesn't make them any smarter or any more experienced or anything like that. They just had the courage to say, I'm going to go do it.
Yeah.
And I
think that's a big, huge thing.
It's honest to God, that's the only thing in my mind that actually separates the people that know their boss is an idiot and you know you're smarter than your boss. That's not why he makes the money. It's because he's braver than you and he started his own thing. That's it.
Choke on that, listeners.
Yep.
But that's so. I mean, I don't know. The only, again, pure anecdotally, from my own experience working at Target, like again, one of those. I did it. Glad I did it because I got to know what that side of that, job workforce is like. But some of the managers there, it's like you can tell they just swallowed and spit their way through to get to where they are, and it's like. There's like, I know, again, like you're saying, like, I know I'm making better calls on them and I'm talking about shit like how to clean the bathrooms better. And, like the most basic things. I'm just like, how can you think that that's the right way to approach this? Or like, even when resolving conflicts, and maybe for me, it was like my communication or my understanding of interpersonal was a little bit higher. But for me, I'm like, how can you think that that's like the way to do this? Like I could have easily corrected this a little better with this guest who's being obnoxious or something. I'm just like, these people are not, they shouldn't have anything above you. And yeah, when you're willing to just go that extra step, like you're saying, and just fuck it, I'm going to do it myself. You're saying that's having that on top of one of these other skills, that like willingness to just say, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. That's what you're saying makes an entrepreneur from a wantrepreneur.
Yeah.
That's like the main.
It is. And to go to the point of like, you don't have to have everything figured out. Like, let's use your example with Target and your manager. This is a multi-billion.
Clearly she's in a better place than I am. So
well,
I mean,
let's look at this company. Like this is a multi-billion international company.
Yeah.
That doesn't train their managers worth a shit, and they're very inefficient on most of those areas. Like don't. There are other companies that have the best training in the world, but like and that's what they're really, really good at. But you have to understand that's not Target's core competency. Like they don't have to have amazing low-end managers to get the fucking bathrooms clean because it doesn't matter. Like that doesn't matter. People are still gonna come if there's a little bit of pee on the floor.
Yeah. Right.
And nobody really cares if that manager is shitty because you're just going to get a ton of workers at the bottom end anyway.
As long as they know how to make the floors look good, the shopping experience good.
As long as it's good enough, because the reason you're at Target is it's cheaper than Nordstrom's and it's not Walmart. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That's why you're at Target. Like your core competency was location and like not being Walmart. Yeah. That's it. Like that's what Target does really, really well. You're not Walmart.
Yeah.
You sell the exact same shit.
I love that Sherlock Holmesian sort of transparency and like breakdown of what that corporation is at its core. That deductive. That's awesome. Yeah, it's but again, like, to tie it back to advice, like for people, I don't know too many people that I feel stuck. I would love to, that's why that's a big reason I want to do more of this kind of stuff. I just want to get to know the universe, really, just like
for sure.
Then and get a sense of people's place in life and to what degree they're struggling with some of these things, and then again synthesize this information and just talk about it. But I do get the sense though that there's a lot of people who are just lost or stuck or facing that sort of quarter life, midlife crisis, or especially with so much I wanted to for sure talk about Bitcoin and some of these things. Do you know anything about FTX?
Oh yeah, I've been paying quite a bit of attention to that.
Good. Thank God, dude. I've been dying to have somebody to talk to about this. But to segue into that, people don't have trust. We're just in a time, I'm getting this from my mom, who's a therapist, and heightened anxiety all around from things like COVID and just the rise in shit going on out there. But also I think a lack of trust in institutions is sort of teetering right now. And this big FTX thing, for a lot of even the more, you could say like intellectuals of or people who know about Bitcoin and follow Bitcoin, you could say are on that blue checks half of society, and the intelligentsia. That's probably a little bit of a conflation, but there's like this guy Coleman Hughes in this podcast, he refers to it as like the intelligentsia. It's like the more sort of elitist class, I guess, of people.
Yeah, I'm in a Facebook argument with a good friend of mine on that kind of exact same
Really?
principle. Well, yeah, he's literally talking shit about blue collar, and it's like, dude, you don't it's like, okay, you're just coming from a very elitist perspective. I can't understand these people. It's like, it's not that hard. If you can't understand 2/3 of the working people in America,
this is probably somebody that lives in a city and has never left the city. And
no, they grew up in Ashland and they live in Seattle.
Yeah, see, I know a few of those people too. So it's like
father of child of a pharmacist with an engineering degree. So you can imagine just like,
totally different way of life. Just like not
very much. Yep.
But, to tie it back to people who don't have a calling or don't know what they want to do and are sort of like befuddled or confused, or like, I even find myself like slipping into that from time to time. Like, one could label it as depression. It's not even so much a prolonged sadness, but it's just like, fuck, man, like, is what I'm doing worth it? Just like that general question that I'm like, wow, this is something that everybody probably feels, nobody talks about, and nobody knows the way out of. And I think this EI approach is one thing, but a lack of trust is another. And you could take the EI spin on that, or just to talk about the crypto thing and your take on that. Either one of these I'd be curious about, because I do want to. I've only briefly heard about FTX and this whole thing, and I'm really blown away by it just from a cursory level understanding. But
well, I think kind of what you're talking about has a lot of kind of the same ingredients of what I think might make why the EI approach is now a viable thing. Because I think we're honestly, and maybe everybody thinks this when they're going through it, but I really do think, looking at it, like, we're at a very special time in human history.
Yeah.
And
I've had that thought many times, like, am I just tripping? Like,
no,
is this the edible kicking in? Or
no, you're, because
we actually, because like, you think about like the way we're able to analyze DNA at such a level. We know so much about space. We're just on the cusp of like getting off this fucking planet and being able to colonize elsewhere. Like, we're just on the cusp of like the technological revolution. We're just about to hit all these limits, it seems like, too. The more I think about it, I'm like, I don't want to feel like the Y2K again. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but AI too coming up. I'm like, I feel like this is going to be like the end of a new chapter in humanity, almost, we're at.
Oh, it's going to be a change. And there's a great book. So there's a great book that I would recommend anybody, and yourself, if you're interested in the world and economy and this type of stuff. Ray Dalio has this great book, and it's something about the new changing world order. But it talks a lot about education and these types of things. And one of the things, like, we are going through,
for all these people facing existential crisis, I hope this doesn't make you feel worse. It should make you feel better.
No, well, here's the thing. Yeah,
I'm sure that's what you were getting at. But
well, here's the thing is, like, when
I can just
it feels
see people
worse,
dreading that too. It's like, oh fuck, like, we're on the looming side of something. But
what I'm trying to explain is, like, we are at the change. Like, the world, things are drastically changing in a lot of different ways. And there's two different books: the Changing World Order, and then there was another one that was talking about what it's called. I think it's called The War. Oh my gosh, what is it? It's
who's the author?
I don't remember on this one. It's called like the Storm Before the Quiet or something like that.
Okay,
and it talks about how it talks about the economic and the social cycles that the country has gone through, and how we're literally getting towards where both of these cycles, economic and social, are both changing right now. It's really, really quite interesting, and I couldn't even hope to really explain it. But one of the things that ushers in a new social change is a new communication device. A
Okay.
new way of communicating.
Like the newspaper.
The radio was the last one.
Oh, the radio.
And now
Yeah.
we've got social media. And so
Okay.
like things are definitely changing, and it does feel like a lot of shit is happening. A lot of shit is happening. And yes, it is scary, but this also creates so many new opportunities. So just, people that feel like shit is getting like it's changing dramatically and it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
Don't let it happen to you. Be the one that like is very proactive and gets in front of the change, because
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have to go through it.
Yeah.
But I really do think that like one of the major changes, like our parents didn't know what was going on in the world unless somebody on the radio told them or they read it in the newspaper. I mean, just that alone,
Yeah.
how that has changed is like I can literally know the inner workings of the Ukrainian war from the Russian sides or the Ukrainian sides in a blink of an eye,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
that's a
like
trip. Anytime you want.
anytime I want, and I have all of the information.
Yeah.
Of course I don't trust anybody because they're still trying to pull this bullshit way of like trying to control the world. And it's like, guys,
Yeah.
I don't think you realize that the young people, like, we've got the cheat codes right here in our phone. It's like, we do know you said this last time and now you're changing
Yeah.
it completely. Or like,
Yeah.
we know you did this.
There's always receipts now too.
There's
yeah.
always receipts or videos or all of these things. We can now look at the senator's fucking trade. It's like, how did you get paid $200,000 and over the last 20 years, you've made $100 million?
Yeah.
Like, how could we possibly trust you crooked criminals?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
all of the evidence is now here.
Yeah. We're definitely in a different time, and I see what you're saying. Like to tie it back to the economics too. Like there's so many more opportunities that are just emerging so quick. We can't really fault people for, again, like our parents' generation, just one previous generation, or maybe two, I guess, depending on how
Yeah.
generations work. But you go back just less than a century, and there's not any way to get information, and access to information opens up economic avenues. Like, and just the fact that information moves so quickly opens up economic avenues
Yeah.
like that didn't even exist. And I'm really curious if there's ever going to be another avenue as quick as what we're in now. Like I know with Neuralink, he's basically trying to feed the info right into your brain, which makes sense. He's like, really the only interface, the only problem is our thumbs. Yeah, it's just too slow. So if you just go straight into your brain, it's just that much faster. I'm like, oh, like just Google searching in your mind. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But that's not going to be, I don't think that's the same leap as it was to go from our parents' age to now. I think that's just slightly faster than what we have now.
Yeah, well, we're on that exponential curve of technology, you
Yeah.
know, and I think
And
there's,
so, yeah,
so go-
well, all I was going to say is to bring it back to kind of more of advice is like, just embracing that this rapid change and growth that we're in, dude. I can't picture, dude, being a kid right now. Like I'm looking at my friends that are all having kids. I was like, what the fuck is it going to be like for that
Dude,
kid when they're my age? Like that blows my mind. I was like it's weird being at the age when everyone around you's having kids, all these people, and, cause you just, typically you don't make friends with people from a younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just pretty rare. Like I'm trying to have friends that are like teenagers right now. Like, I don't know if that's weird, but like I have one friend who I play kendama with. He's like 20.
Yeah, I think
or something.
he was at your
Yeah,
bachelor
Edwin.
party.
Yep,
Yeah,
the pro. So I'm gonna have him on at some point
Nice.
too. But I'm trying to like. I was saying to my parents the other day, because my dad works in a high school. I was like, what are the high schoolers like these days? Like it's different than mine was, but I don't feel that far attached. But I feel like by the time I start caring what high schoolers are like, I'm going to be like 40 and so far gone. Like I want to know what the current generation, I hear they're all on TikTok and dicking around, but so is my generation kind of. So I want to see what the differences are. So I don't know. It's weird.
It's been pretty fun being with undergrads in the, and they're most of
and
them
you were
are
touching
10,
on that earlier. Yeah.
10, 12 years younger than me. So it is.
That's
it's
the best advice. Go back to college when you're like 30.
Dude, I would seriously. It's way more valuable and way easier.
Get some freshies out of high school.
Once you've put in a few years of 40, 50, 60-hour work weeks, like college is easy.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, you were gonna say? It just really amazes me. Something that I kind of take pride in is like I was that very specific time in history where I literally like started high school where like you didn't use the internet. Like you
Yeah.
didn't type, you didn't use the internet for things, and you just kind of started typing things up. And then going to college 4 years old later, like literally you couldn't have gone into college without a computer. You
Without it.
couldn't have signed up for classes, you couldn't have gotten assignments, you couldn't have gotten syllabuses, you couldn't have turned anything in. I literally had to have this conversation with my parents of like, guys, I'm not wasting my money buying a laptop. Like this
have to
isn't
have it, yeah.
this isn't a thing. This is the equivalent of a calculator these days.
Yeah.
Like I don't get to get educated without one of these things.
Yeah, right.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah. A computer.
And just yeah, like I mean, it's just even the fact of
And it's almost crazier that like the phones are almost as powerful as those old computers. So it's like, I already have a phone. Can I just bring that to class? I almost think people should let one do that. Like you could get a pretty decent word processor on these, I would think, and like run some research on it if you have a bigger screen. Like, I don't know. I would almost think there's a way around having a laptop, but some people like the big ass keyboard and stuff.
Yeah, it is the keyboard.
That's another gripe we'll have to explore at a different time with college. The main thing I just want to make sure we close the loop on is just the times we're in right now are just crazy. Like it's just as far as how quickly things are growing, just in the sense, technologically, but also information
totally
wise.
And this is something that I would like to add to that. And this is something I've been really trying to focus on in my life. And it's the difference between being like nervous and excited, or anxious and excited, or scared and excited.
Your heart beats the same. That's the quote I heard is like your heart beats the same.
It's the same, in my opinion, like physiologically, the same things are happening. Your heart races, you start to sweat, you start thinking of a certain way. But I really honestly think it comes down to the mentality of it. When you are anxious or when you are nervous, you are thinking about the possible negative outcomes. When you are excited, you are thinking about the possible positive outcomes.
Yep.
And so like right now, like with this
you're an optimist or you're a pessimist.
Yeah. And I think, and you can control that. You absolutely can control that. And they're both true. Yeah. They're both right.
Yes,
and
exactly. So you might as well pick the better one.
Or at least add in the excitement, because like there is a lot of stuff to be stressed out about right now, I would say. And especially like in business and stuff, like just know if you're going to do the business stuff, like it's always stressful, but it's also really exciting. I mean, it's been fine. And I recognize, unfortunately, I feel like I'm experienced enough now in business to just know what to expect and know that you're going to be wrong on everything. Oh, I'm good, thanks. Before I even see it, I'll have to get my self-control. Yeah.
More disciplined than I am.
Yeah. Well,
I commend you.
But no, I'm hoping very much that like I thought I was going to get really heavy into content creation this term. Now that the stuff is actually finished, I'm hoping to actually really dive into lot. It. God, man, I hope so. That's the fun stuff I want to do.
Has your assistant been helpful though? Like
she's okay.
Not ideal.
She's turning more in like.
She seemed like she was really like handling your shit. Like I don't know.
It was good.
I've never seen an assistant before, but she seemed like she was emailing me, like she was scheduling things.
No, it's good. I think for me, I guess for me, I'm getting to a place where like I've gotten a lot of the busy. I'm at a tough spot because I've gotten a lot of that foundation work done, and like we're almost done with that chapter. Where like all of the software and the marketing, but we're not done yet.
You're at the like peak,
dude.
I'm
literally
like at the steepest part of the
dude,
or the least steep part of it, I guess.
And I have been here for a long time, and once we flip that switch, there'll be a lot more to do. But there's just like at the moment, there's not. It's hard to see a lot of productivity from her because one, we're figuring out a lot of stuff
on the fly,
and it's been, but also I have so many few other tasks to just be like, go figure this out. They're a lot more in depth now. They're a lot more
like shit you have to deal with. And
and I have this other principle too. I call it the 70% principle, which might be a good way to just transition back into it. But in business, at least this is something I'm trying to apply this round through, is like because I'm doing like the startup that has and probably because it's so heavily technology based, like I
Mm.
had to have everything in place before I could move forward.
Yeah, right.
And I've had to have that on a lot of these different iterations. So instead of trying to get everything like
Another
really
thing to
well
just
done,
embrace about the EI process, it sounds like, is like you have to
it,
you can't just like take off.
dude,
You have to be at this smaller slope because you could get it, have the easy route and go make $600 this week working at Target.
yeah,
Again,
yep,
to use that shitty analogy,
yep,
but that would be easier than what you're doing.
yeah,
In that sense of like you could just be, you have to put in more hours initially to help yourself grow more quickly.
yeah.
Like
Um,
that's the main like thing to absorb and take away from this. Same with any YouTuber, you got to make a shit ton of content before you
Yep.
blow up. You have to, like, it's just part of the curve,
and just understanding like and embracing that of like the suck, embracing the suck, and like and just knowing like it's part of the process. And the 70% rule is you get everything to basically passing. Like, are all of the pieces
Yeah.
in place? Like, will this even function? Like, yes, okay. And then the actual principle that I have, which I think could have some merit to it if it's expanded out, but you basically try to cut the amount of progress that is left in half every time.
Okay.
In different segments. So like you got it to 70%, you're like, okay, good. Now the next iteration, you try to get everything to 85%.
Okay, cut it in half.
Cut it in half because like you can't because the
Don't try
farther
to
you
shoot
get
for
in the
100 every
process, the
time. Yeah.
longer it takes and the harder it is. And you will spend the same amount of time on each one of these processes. You'll spend the same amount of time getting this to 70% as you will take getting it from 70 to 85%. And then from 85 to 92, you're going to take the same amount.
Okay.
And then from 92 to like, I forget where it goes. It's like 96.
Yeah.
And you're going to spend the same amount of time on each one of those steps because that's literally how much effort it takes on those last little bits to get everything that good. Like,
Yeah, right.
those little lizards are a little harder to find and kill, because they're like, they're the
quick
perfect
little
little,
bastards,
yeah.
But those are that's such a beautiful way to bring it in, because if you're in a room and you just drop a bucket of them, it's going to be easy to just stomp
Yep.
them out in big batches, easy. But yeah, eventually they're all going to scatter. You're going to have to go fucking sort them out, find them.
Yep.
But you're going to find them. It's just going to take more work.
Yep.
And you've been in it for more time, and it's going to get harder.
And
the more
it's
time
so
you're in
much
it.
more frustrating because you're like, where is this goddamn... Like, I have been looking for this fucking lizard for
Yeah.
3 weeks. Like, and I'm used to killing one every minute and a half.
Or like multiple within one step.
Dude,
yeah.
and you just feel like a stud.
god, yeah.
And by the end of it, like for me,
Yeah.
I have spent almost a month.
Dude, I'm at that exact same
Dude.
place. I feel like that's a beautiful way of looking at it, because I've felt stuck, to be honest, like
Yep.
these last few months even. Like, it's just like, man, I built the website, I got this going, I got a few clients, but like I'm not at this takeoff point, it's just like there's just like this hindrance. But yeah, it's like, god damn it, I just need to I need to be disciplined. I know I need to make the schedule.
Yep.
I need to work every day. I need to show up here. I need to do this. I need to stomp out these fucking things that are just like the things I don't want to do the
Yep.
most, but I know once I start doing those and I just like get myself on that path, video work, of course, this is a little bit different from that same model of like, not passive income. I can't remember the term you had changed it to, but
Just exponential income? Or-
exponential income. Yeah. Like this particular model of what I'm doing, granted, I can like increase my prices the more jobs I get, but I'm still putting in work, but at least it's something that I really want to do. I really value doing video work, and, so the exponential growth curve might not be as steep for something like this. But
Well, for sure, but at the same time too, like, and this is a kind of a process, and I'm glad we're having these conversations. One thing I wanted to mention earlier.
we got to go back to Tony Robbins, by the way. That
Oh,
was where we
yeah.
left off.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to have a brief talk about his whole thing and what he's doing for people, but
Okay.
you can
well,
finish this first.
Yeah.
so.
Well, now I'm in between thoughts. I don't even remember where I was going.
You were
with-
just saying, for me, even though I'm not doing the
Oh.
same kind of exponential growth with video stuff.
Yeah. So the other thing too was like understanding, like, okay, what do you want to get out of this? And one thing, so like, the first step, what you're doing right now, maybe your goal isn't to grow the biggest company. You're like, my goal is to get a lot of experience in video work.
Yeah.
And that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And that's why I think aspirations are more important than goals.
Yeah.
But also too, like, oh man, where is it? Come on. I know this train of thought is right there. Because it had to do with the first things at the beginning. Oh yeah. Here is one of the things that I wish somebody would have told me at the beginning with business, or something that I think is very valuable.
Listen up, listeners. You're about
Like,
to get the gold right here.
I wish,
already
like,
know.
when it came to businesses and stuff like that, I think a lot of people are very hesitant and tentative because they really feel like, okay, this is it. This is the business. This is the one I'm doing for the rest of my life. Like, this is the permanent choice. Yeah. And I would really just encourage people, like, it was a huge relief off of my back. Like, you don't have to do that at all. Start as many businesses as you want. It's really easy. It takes like 4 hours to actually go, like, not even. It takes 4 hours, a couple $100, and like start multiple businesses. You don't have to start your end business now.
Diversify.
Yeah. And you can, like, like my buddy that I was telling you, he's like, he wants to become an entrepreneur. He's not totally sure. That's why I told him, like, you don't have to try to build an empire of dog poop picking up.
You're right.
You know,
right.
Go learn those skills, and then you learn sales, and you learn how to schedule, and then you can go find a better opportunity. Doing some of these other things that might take more work, but
like,
you've
people
got more
need to
capital.
understand that art of translation a little bit too, like translating what you have into, like, that's what I'm trying to embrace too, like doing this kind of stuff, the video stuff. It's like, okay, I just need to translate this, flip all my filming vertical, and like, that's, I mean, not the best example, but it's like a way of thinking of like, okay, I have these skills, and like, just like editing really is what I truly enjoy and think I'm better at than anything else. Like, making the snappy little Instagram videos is a skill I could learn with the skills in video I have for sure. So like, learning that art of translation of like, okay, find where the money is, and then like translate your skills into how to do that, you know. And maybe, I don't know.
No, and I think, and really, you know, just diving right, I think kind of what I'm trying to do with the EI approach for myself specifically is just realize, you know, I talked about experience, skills, and knowledge, and like, and goals and aspirations, and I think like maybe having this large aspiration of like, hey, this is where I want my life to go, and then the immediate goals are like, these are the experiences, knowledge, or skills that I want to learn. So this is the steps that I'm going to take. This is the goal. And maybe for now it's like, okay, I want this huge thing, but now my goal, I'm going to learn how to do these little snippets of YouTubing, or maybe even, or no, I'm going to go learn to make money picking up dog poop.
Yeah, right.
And those don't have to necessarily be, that's why I think goals are a little bit dangerous, because they're so structured and rigid that it's like, is this specific thing I'm going to do right now directly helping me get to that specific thing? It's like, well, probably not. Like, going and picking up dog poop's not going to help you be a good, you know, making great videos. But will it help you learn how to make sales and all of these other things? Absolutely. And you can just quit. Like, just stop doing it.
Yeah, anytime. You work for yourself.
You work for your, you know, and like, you could start as many businesses. And I would encourage people, like, here's another stat. Everybody knows, or the goes around, 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Okay, whatever. In the first whatever many years. It doesn't even fucking matter. And everybody's like, oh, do you know how, and people are like, do you know how easy it is to make a business fail? Like, yeah, it's pretty fucking easy. People do it all the time.
And what do you think is that core thing that caused?
There's a million. I mean,
they run out of money, or they don't have enough
there's
money?
There's so many, like, when people do it, like, they don't know what they're doing. And here's the thing is, like, where does that stat come from? And like, what is a failed business?
Because you don't ever really see a failed business. I guess I've seen businesses go out of business, but I don't know.
Like, theoretically, I would imagine the statistic is made up of a few of the businesses that I've ran. And like, my painting business, for instance, that was nothing but like a success. I mean, not at one point in time after I bought the equipment, I was in the green or the black the whole time. That wasn't in any way a failure. It's not going anymore, but that's not a failure. But that probably counts in the statistics. But like, where I was going with this, is like, you can make a business fail in a million different ways, and you learn the lesson. Statistically, if you actually believe 9 out of 10 businesses fail, and it's really fucking easy to fail. You only have to fail 9 times until statistically you will make a successful business. Like, nobody looks at it that way because they're like, oh my God, I'm going to fail once. No, you only have to try 9.
Go out and fail. Yeah, that's what people
You only
say.
have to try 9 times.
Yeah.
And that's just statistically. Yeah. And like, if
it
you're
could
actually...
be 99 out of 100, yeah, but it's only 9 out of 10.
And statistically, if you're the person that tries 3 or 4 times, that you're not the same people that are failing all the time, because the people that fail once never try again. So the lessons that you've learned, you're not applying. So I guarantee you, it's not going to take you 9 times to get a successful business to fail. And it's really easy to get a business to fail. So just start going. Go through the process.
I wonder what the repeat stat would be like. but two out of 10 businesses fail after their second attempt, at research, or 2 out of 10 people fail at only 2 out of 10 people fail at starting their second business.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I wonder if there's a stat on that. Who actually pursue it
for
afterwards,
sure. I can guarantee you,
because I bet it is lower. I would 100% believe. Yeah,
I guarantee
people don't usually, except for maybe Trump, start multiple businesses that fail. But that's, again, he's got his influence dial turned all the way up, and probably some other dials too.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, that's again a lot of great takeaways, I think, for people in thinking about like. That lifestyle, or that just mental change of thinking like I can do it, just from I can't do it, and
be realistic.
Yeah,
you don't even have to be optimistic, just be realistic. It's like, okay,
but I could almost say like being realistic could be somebody saying like, I don't think realistically that'd be so hard, like to get dog poop I'd have to go buy bags. They're probably not going to have, like, making excuses is almost an art too now.
Oh yeah.
And again, this is speaking from experience. It's just like, and I think for a lot of people, it's just easier to do the easiest thing. Mm-hmm. That's nothing profound. Don't quote that. But like there is sort of I think here's what I'm getting at. Like, it blows my mind that, to go back to the dog poop example, but even this video example, like you're saying, I'm like, I don't know if what I'm doing really has value. It's like, dude, it has value because you chose to do it, because of how easy it is to be lazy, because of how easy it is to not pick up dog poop, because of how easy it is to just not learn how to do video editing or look at things or do things or pursue things or sit through 4 years of school, because of how easy it is to not do any of those things. Mm-hmm. The fact that you just chose to devote your time to that one particular thing makes it valuable. Yep. And the only pushback I really have on it is like, I could say that same thing though about something like a tree falling service, and maybe, again, I can only speak from video production because that's mm-hmm. what my fallback is, but the money you make doing video production can be a lot more than falling trees mm-hmm. hour per hour. And granted, I think it's because it's one of those things that you kind of are combining skills, like audio engineering could be its whole separate job. You have to like know color, you have to know mm-hmm. editing, lighting, shooting, like direct scripting sometimes, like if you're a one-man band. So you kind of are doing a lot of jobs to an extent, but this is the one industry where it's still like you're selling your art, but your art is not just a painting. It's mm-hmm. also, you're not just painting a picture, but you're also providing a service and sometimes like a marketing aspect to it too. You're helping people sell things too. Mm-hmm. So it's like a very weird realm to be in, and how to price it. You kind of just have to go off this arbitrary value that just seems to be out there, and people give you all kinds of numbers and they say, oh, just base it by project. It's like, okay, but literally where do I start?
Oh, you know? Yeah.
And I didn't mean to make it about me, but I think the general takeaway could be like how to navigate sort of a market where I can be financially successful when, like, I don't know, like picking up the dog poop. It's like, okay, but sure I have the motivation to go and do that. I'll go get one of those little like grunt jobs or like a little hustle, something like that in the neighborhood, selling cookies or something. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, like, I could get some of those same skills perhaps working at a job like Target or the local mm-hmm. store or something, and making money at the same time. So like, what would be your response to that, of like, maybe there's something different to, like you said, kind of working for yourself rather than working for somebody else early on, and learning what it's like to make money a different way, even if it doesn't lead to exponential growth in this dog poop business or something. Like, what could be your advice for, again, coming from somebody who's kind of stuck at where to price things financially and how to grow beyond a certain point where I'm not working for somebody? It's mm-hmm. almost easier when you're working for somebody in the sense that they can set you a price and then you can negotiate from there. But when you're coming up with everything seemingly on the fly for services and stuff.
So I want to clarify the question.
Probably too much there, yeah.
So are you, because I love either of these directions, but are you kind of asking about like, how do you come up with pricing? Or because there was a couple of other things that had to do with value in there. That
I'd rather lean away from coming up with pricing and more just like value in general.
Okay.
Because one of the notes I did have was about the Marxist labor theory of value, and I was curious if you knew about that, or if that's something that comes up in business at all, or if it's anything you would
have to. I don't know the specific term, but I will say no, but why don't you educate me on that idea?
It's it really just has to do with I mean, Karl Marx, Marxism in general, and that actually it was in this podcast too. At a different point, they briefly talked about it, and he said, typically, Karl Marx, he wouldn't even show up in any, even though he was an economist in his time, he wouldn't show up in any economy textbooks because a lot of his ideas that were supposedly, post-enlightenment, like there's supposed to be this new way of thinking, tried and true, they don't actually work. And it all has to do with the fact that I don't know it well enough either to recite it perfectly, but it has to do with the fact that like all value can be derived from the labor of the working class, and then the capitalist class just collects the difference. But the profit is essentially theft. It's a euphemism for theft because that same worker could be getting that full amount, but because this capitalist, this provider provided the job, they take a cut or something. And purely market value of any product is said, that's at the extreme end. And so I just wanted to have a conversation with somebody who knows more than me. So at some point we should look into it and have a good conversation about it. But the general idea of Marxism more generally is like, it's more on the communist side of, and from an economic standpoint, it's like more of a shared goods rather than a capitalist sort of way of thinking. And the way I thought of it connected to you and what the EI approach says is because I remember when you first kind of told me about this idea back when we first met, even it was about like the dream model is everyone is their own employer and everyone is their own contractor really, and everyone is just a contractor for everyone else. There is no more employees. There is no more corporate structure, corporate ladder. You are working for yourself at a very specific job, and if you want to do a different job, you perhaps get some other kind of training in that job to be able to advertise yourself in that way, and that way you can multiply or advertise yourself for multiple jobs at the same time, have technically several different employers, and not have to trade as much of your time for money, finish the tasks that they need, which take you a few hours to do, and automate however you can. And I'm probably elaborating a little bit farther than what your actual definition is, but could this be like a new economic model, and could you explain it a little bit more, like if that's what it kind of is?
So I do think that it is a different model, and this kind of comes from, I've heard from a long time or for a while, and it hasn't been really widespread, but you touched on it, that we are going towards a gig economy.
Where I think it's like 1/3 of Americans have a side gig or something.
Yeah,
it's something ludicrous.
It's because we have no other choice. Because of COVID too. Yeah. Well, we have no other choice. I mean, because I would say that I'm probably more educated and involved in economics than like your average person. But you start talking about cost of living, student debt, these types of things, people just think it comes down to entitlement, and it's just straight up. It's like, guys, this is a very, very simple mathematical equation. There isn't enough opportunities to make the money that we need to have the lifestyle that we've been living. Yeah. And so we can either live a shittier lifestyle or make more money. But and the only way we can make more money, and this, we can go way down the rabbit hole, I don't think you want to, but, is you have to control your own finances. And so what I really do think is we're getting to the point I would encourage, I think...
Are you talking like full money in the mattress, like...
No, not even. No, like certain things. Like, here you go. For instance,
we need to talk about Bitcoin too. Still,
yeah. Social Security is one of the worst investments. Like, if you were to go take the money that is taken out of your pocket and goes into Social Security, and over the time that it's invested and the return that you get, you couldn't really do worse. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. So, one of the things...
But it's the safest, right?
No, not... It maybe kind of used to be, but it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse.
Like you mean is that something that changes based on who's in office type of thing? Like how much is in the Social Security pension or whatever?
Well, okay, so here's the thing.
And isn't that a good thing? Because that means we're pulling less money from people and letting them have more responsibility with their money.
Oh, no, we're pulling the same amount of money. They're just not getting any return for it.
Oh, I see. The
returns are garbage.
Is it because the interest rates are getting lower?
It's a joke. Like, if you were to actually control your own money, and I should have, I can find them. I've seen them. But the amount of money that is taken out and put into, like, if that money, if you would have just taken the same amount of money, put it in a 401k, 401k, and like just put it in just the base S&P 500, like exponentially, well, maybe not exponent, but significantly better off. Like the government just does a terrible job at that. You know, we're stealing from Paul to pay Peter, or whatever that saying is. We're taking from young people to pay the old people for a system that's broken. And the government's not going to change it at all. So there's a thing, like part of the EI approach, if you just start an LLC as an S corp, you can take you're an employee, but so you get paid through the wages or salary, however you want, but then you can take distributions, which are not subject to taxes. Social Security.
Oh, yeah.
So that's, I think it's a 15.5, it might be 15.2 or 15.5% of your bottom line is now not going away. So you are instantly taking 15% more money. Like there are very few things you can do to get that sort of gain. If you just take that money and weren't even really wise with it, if you were to just put it in like the most like basic generic investment, you're way better off. Yep.
Once a month, you're just, at least educating yourself.
You're just way better off.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the things where we should get into the gig economy. Not only that, and this was something that I can't remember the podcast, but somebody said it very well. This country is built to benefit businesses. That was quite the alliteration. But
I love it. Built to benefit businesses, though.
Yeah, and our tax system, and everybody complains about it, and that's fine. You can complain about it.
Businesses of what size, you think?
That's exactly the fucking point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Everything that benefits a business can benefit any individual if they go start a business.
If they go have a business.
That's all you have to do. Take the 4 hours and the $250 and go start a business. And like, okay, you're gonna have to do a little bit more than that. But once you do that, and if you learn, you got to learn. This is part of the EI approach. Is like we need to educate people on finances. We have to teach them some financial literacy because it is almost non-existent. Actually, I would go almost farther than non-existent. It's like it's taught the
What's
opposite.
farther than non-existent? Oh, okay.
It's like we are encouraged to do dumb things. Like we are encouraged.
You think so?
Don't do debt unless it's a home. It's like, no, this is ridiculous. Like a home is not a great. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds. Debt is not good or bad. If you're stupid with debt, it's bad. And consumer debt is bad.
Okay.
Business debt is fucking great. It's treated way differently. And if you're competent and you know how to do these things, yes, it's a tool that can hurt you like a knife. Yeah. But if you learn these things, it's a skill that you can very easily benefit. And like all of these tax benefits, if you were to go and spend the 4 hours to start your own business, you can now write off everything in your life that you couldn't write off otherwise. If you work...
Just a quick plug, Keeper Tax. That's how you do exactly that. That's the app I use.
Nice. Keeper. Nice.
Keeper Tax. They're called Keeper now, but it's brilliant. You just get that little virtual assistant. Literally every single thing you purchase on a card. Yeah. Any card.
Anything.
It'll just be like, is that a write-off? And you just say yes or no in the category. And even, it's like Taco Bell. It's like, yeah, I had a work conversation.
Dude,
a lot of the time I do. I'm on my way here, but still.
Dude, even more than that, though, like you can get deeper into it and be like, you can write off your rent from home.
It's a certain percentage.
It's a certain percentage, but you can also, but it doesn't matter. Yeah. That's taxes you don't have to pay, which taxes are the number. If you look at a balance sheet, the taxes are the very last thing before your bottom line.
And we give corporations shit for finding like loopholes or for discovering these ways to like get out of them. It's like, wow, we could probably all be doing that. But
that's what I'm encouraging. Instead of bitching about it, go join it. These are the rules that are set up to benefit businesses.
And you think that's better than trying to change the laws to tax less? Like, okay.
Yes. I mean, they're already there. Yes. Do I think that we need to change the tax? Sure. Yes. We should incentivize things differently. But also, most people have no fucking clue about taxes or the economy and why there are tax breaks. Like, people don't understand why there are tax breaks. It's because the government is trying to keep the economy going. So if the activity that you're doing is perpetuating the economy, they don't want to take it out of there.
STEM and STEAM and stuff. Because I was going to tie it back to the reason we don't know it is because we didn't learn it in schools.
Yep.
And the reason we didn't learn it in schools is because we only have so much time in the day, and they'd rather fill that time with math, reading, writing,
Yeah.
and those kind of skills.
And how to be a good employee.
And how to be a good employee.
And pay
how
your taxes.
And maybe an art class,
Yeah.
you know, if you're feeling a little bit crafty. But like actual know-how things. Dude, we actually did have an economics class, and it's just, I think it just speaks volumes to like the entire, maybe not speaks total volumes, but like just exactly what you're talking about. It's like, is a perfect metaphor, because this class, like this teacher, this lady, she was just like the biggest pushover of a teacher. Like nobody learned anything in that class, and everybody made fun of her, and she made a fool of herself a bunch. It was honestly kind of sad. But like we tried to, like, dude, she, like, bless her heart, man, she's like this older lady. She tried to take us to down to the Ray's food place to write the prices and just track inflation. Like, how cool of an idea, you know? Like, how cool of an idea to like go to the store and like actually see the you know, the prices change over a period of time. Like, I would think of that now as like, oh, that'd be actually interesting. Like, I've never paid that close attention. But we're high schoolers, bro. So we go down there, we just steal a bunch of like buy a bunch of shit. She actually said like, no, we're not allowed to buy anything. You know, we're allowed to leave campus. They had open campus lunch actually there, but she's like, we can't buy anything though. We're on like a school thing, so they won't let me. But like me and my friends like got out ahead of the rest of the class, ran down there before them. We're just down the street, bought a bunch of shit, dude. We're in the checkout line as her and the rest of the class are walking in. We're just like holding our M&Ms and snacks and just like pretending to look at the register at like the prices. Anyways, though, yes, economics though probably isn't taught enough in schools, and if it is, it's probably one of those like pushover classes that people don't get information like this from, you know. And even if their teacher isn't a total dolt, like they're probably not getting like a nice firm like understanding of this is how taxes work, this is how our government works, this is how, like, it seems like they're just in the government and economics classes I did have, it really felt like we were reaching farther for the, like, the we were talking about before, the frontier of knowledge on that, in that aspect and understanding, and didn't really get the core sort of values, you know. Like, we were having bigger discussions in government class about how should government be run, you know. It's like, what the fuck is a district attorney, or what the fuck is it? Like, I never had those. It felt like, why are we talking about this, you know?
For sure.
And they're teaching to the test. It's like, you have to know what the government was like in fucking Germany in 1940.
I know, for sure.
Like,
here's a bunch of dates.
Here's a bunch of times, and like who founded America. It's like, but that doesn't help me know what a district attorney, like, what if I need a parking ticket paid? Like,
for sure.
I don't know. And maybe they just figure, oh, that's just common knowledge, one of those things you just have to learn. But it's like, but you're the one who's supposed to be teaching me.
Yeah, I know.
This is what we're paying for.
We could go.
Not me. I'm a student in high school, but my parents, man, I care.
Well, we could go down a long rabbit hole, and this was very
education is a
Well, not only that,
we're gonna do this again for sure.
Yeah, here's one of the conspiracy theories. It's like, there is no incentive for government employees to teach you how to not pay taxes.
Right.
Because
there's no incentive. Yeah.
Why would they?
In fact,
there's let me go further back. There is no incentive for the government to teach you how to not pay taxes.
Right.
So why the hell would they?
Yeah.
And I think that's very true. I mean, I think that you could be, I think, you know, looking at a lot of these topics that we have, we can kind of go and look at the education system and be like, oh,
yeah,
well, this is what we learned.
Yeah.
And this is what actually is true.
We walked
or
away
we
with.
should have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, the things it does teach, which is just, you can't really even credit it for it, because it's just going to naturally happen because you're just putting a bunch of kids in place, or like the social skills, you know, making friends, like those kind of life skills. Obviously schools are great, but it's almost like you might as well put them in a prison with pretty pictures for them to just hang out, and as long as they're not doing video games or drugs or gambling, you're doing the same thing. There's also something I would say about structure and routine and keeping, like,
for sure,
there's that whole prison to school to prison pipeline, like, theory out there that I'm like, I could see that schools are like prisons, but like a prison you can't leave, and like there's obviously differences. But you know, yes, they both take place in a building with fewer windows than they should have. Yes, you're right. It is like a prison in that way. But there is a sense of, like, you know, I think you get those strong social skills of structure, of trusting adults, of, like, you know, getting to know peers, obviously making friends, and like enduring suck together, you know, with somebody is, you know, something you don't have to get through the military. You can get it at that young age. So, and obviously when you're in elementary school, it's like they're literally just babysitters. And if you're learning anything, which you probably are, because the younger your brain is, like the more quicker you learn. Like elementary school teacher, man, like my hats go off to them. Like they're doing way more work than I think like middle school, maybe not middle school, but like high school, maybe even some college classes.
College
bro. I could tell you, dude,
'cause I can tell you to
college
leave.
teachers are like friends with their professors, and I'm just like, they're getting drinks with their students. I'm like, dude, this isn't a fucking job, bro. You're just like, you get to chill with college kids and like talk about shit that's at your level, and you don't have to. I'm like, dude, elementary school teachers, bro, you have to. You're one person. I think the ratio now by law is like 1 to 20. You could be responsible for 20 children that aren't yours. Like that shit blows my mind. I need to talk to one of my friends who's an elementary school teacher and just understand that fucking psychology. Cause that, like, I don't know. I had one of my elementary school teachers walk me for high school graduation. A lot of people picked somebody else, but I had her because I was just like, what was it like having, it's like crazy to see you now. Like, what was it like? She's like, you guys are a bunch of shits. Yeah. She just told me straight up. I was like, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't remember where that came from, but
I don't know, something about
education in general.
Yeah.
Like, and high school teachers,
well,
obviously have it rough working with pubescent kids and whatnot and fights and stuff. But like, as far as
what they're teaching us,
the depth of like how human you have to be, like elementary school teachers, like there's probably a reason they're mostly women. I think it's like in the 90s or something. It's crazy, the ratio, but it's like you have to have such like that instinct of like being able to care for that many people all at once. I don't know. And again, to compare it to a college class, maybe the subject matter is tougher. It's not like shapes and colors, but like it's all stuff that you're already thinking about anyways, because that's what you do for a living as a college professor. I don't know. I'm going off on one of those tangents.
Yeah, I'm gonna take my own tangent. One of the things that what really kind of surprised me.
I might have missed the mark on a few things there, but hopefully some things stuck out to people. And yeah.
One of the things that I just going back to one of the perspective shifts that I had going back to school was and one of the reasons I feel kind of like a hypocrite is because I'm sitting here now in college and I'm looking at the economy and I'm looking at like really how terrible it is for young people. And I've realized, I was like, if you just get a master's degree, which is way easier than your bachelor's degree, I will honestly say that, because you're actually studying things you want to learn, and they're the same classes. Like literally, they're the exact same classes. But you get to they don't make you do as much stupid, childish things. You you have a lot more freedom in what you kind of learn. They're like, hey,
maybe I need to go back for a master's.
Dude, it's actually like, and then when I realized, I was like, hey, because I've already have offers to teach at the school, and I was like, if I just jump through this hoop, it's like, I could have this job. It's like, this is a fucking cush job.
Dude.
I was like,
and this
why wouldn't you? And if you do that now for 20 years, if you work for the government and you pay your little your student loans off, they'll forgive them.
Yeah.
I don't think that's not what I think schools should do. I don't think that's why they're there. I don't think they should perpetuate it. But at the same time,
I think there's probably a deeper analogy there that's kind of maybe sadistic almost. It's like you're just like, it's just like this constant churning of the scooping of clawing. It's like, let's just keep people in the system to keep people in the system to keep people in the system. It's like it never actually, I mean, granted, every once in a while they're going to churn out like a fucking Bill Gates or whatever, but like
who didn't even finish school.
I know most of them didn't. No, it's kind of fucked up.
The entrepreneurs won't. The managers will.
That's right, the managers. He's like, I need some dipshit to come run this.
Yeah, I need somebody who's not brave enough to do it themselves.
They're sheep. Probably to some extent.
They're controllable wolves, probably.
Yeah, that's a better way of looking at it. We do need a new term for sheep, because I keep like thinking that I'm just like, man, the more I think about the world, it's like it really comes down to, and it's not like somebody's absolutely one or the other, but there's different scenarios where people are either sheeps or lions. It's like, it's like, wow, damn, you really just believed everything they told you about this COVID, for example, or like this. And, some things obviously were worse than others. Some things were truer than others and more false than others. But I'm just like, wow, this is like crazy to see people that I really respected. And when they're put in this situation, this is how this is when
Yep.
they showed the true colors. I'm like,
It
this is crazy, you know? And
It's one of these things I think we just realized, and this is probably really extreme, but you know, when people ask like how could the Nazis have done this type of stuff?
Yeah.
It's like, no, we just saw it. Like we saw people just blatantly not even thinking for themselves, doing really just
Yeah.
wrong things.
Yeah.
With no evidence.
Well, yeah. And I could see, I mean, just from the side of like, yeah, just doing things because you were told to, being bad. And like the difference being with COVID, it's like they were being told it was the best thing to do to prevent people from dying rather than like, but which I guess I don't know that much about Nazi Germany. Like, I don't know what the selling point was. I guess it must have been something good, because
Yeah,
only doing something truly good can compel you to do something that evil.
I
think.
don't know. I
Really?
think no. Fear is 10 times better
Yeah.
motivator than good.
But-
I think
but-
people are super ignorant on that one.
But I really wonder if like, because yeah, I guess then the extreme would be like, not only do we have to mask up and get 2 shots and get vaccinated, we have to like go out and like hunt down the people who refuse to get vaccinated. Like, I wonder if that would have flown, or maybe it would have had to be more gradual to get to that point.
Well, just
or if like that.
I think what's even worse, getting away from the specifics, like
Yeah.
what I was kind of even alluding to is like without any evidence, or not even without evidence, like we got to a place where like having your own thoughts and opinions were demonized.
Yeah.
And turns out most of the people that a lot of the things that people were demonized for were totally true
Yeah.
and accurate.
Yeah.
And nobody even thought, and that's what was scary, was it was like, no, these weren't even big. These weren't big leaps. Like, I'm
Right,
just going to
yeah.
use the one where
It didn't have to be
you were-
COVID, but there's probably a lot of things
yeah,
out
but
there
this
that
one's
are-
easy. But it's like the fact that like, no, you're a racist if you thought that coronavirus could have come out of the coronavirus lab in
Yeah.
Wuhan, where everybody was telling us the virus came from. Like,
Yeah.
that's the type of stuff. And this is also just a specific example I used earlier today with my Facebook friends of like,
That's not
this is
racist.
terrifying. Like,
Well-
that's what's scary is like, no, you are a demon. You're demonized. You're a racist. If you connect these two unbelievably logical dots,
Yeah.
that's what's terrifying.
It's that easy.
And then
Yeah.
to be like, oh no, we know this stuff. It's like, there's no way you know the long-term effects on something you just invented.
that just happened,
Like, you
yeah.
don't like. No, you don't know that. There's no way you could possibly know that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. And like, just dude, I fairly recently was shooting a video and was the only one in the room without a mask on. It was at SOU, and this
Dude,
was,
this is ridiculous.
and I'm just like, okay, I was the youngest person there probably, except for maybe a couple college students, but it was only like 20, 30, maybe 40 people max, but only one in the room without the mask on. And at the very beginning, she opened, she's like, we just wanted to thank everybody for participating in the mask and like keeping everyone safe. And I'm just sitting there fucking filming, just like stone cold, just staring right at her. I don't know if she ever like actually made eye contact, but I shit you not, dude, I looked around, not a single person didn't have a mask on except for me. I was like, dude, this is fucking crazy. We were indoors, granted, but there was no signs or anything like that.
Dude, this hasn't-
But I'm like, it's crazy that people still like, there's still that social pressure like to do that when it
It's
just
not even a
doesn't-
thing. Like, we've literally
Yeah.
even been told, like, you don't have to do this anymore.
Dude, and it's also crazy seeing kids that like prefer to wear the mask. Like, I see kids running around with it on. I think there's some deep psychological, like, it feels good to
Dude,
keep
they've
it
been
on.
terrified.
Yeah.
Like, they've been absolutely terrified by their idiot parents that are like, oh my God, you are going to die.
Yeah.
You are going to die.
Yeah.
If you don't wear this mask.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up in the Christian school. Like, I know.
you know what
I
indoctrination
know
is.
what
Yeah.
the fear of like, oh hey, if you
Literally
don't do
the
this,
fear of God?
The fear of God. Like, yeah, well, but the
Yeah.
fear of God. If you don't do this, you're gonna burn in hell for fucking ever.
I don't think there's anything worse than that. I think there's a reason they came up with the worst possible thing they
Seriously.
could imagine, because
Yeah, no, this isn't even gonna be bad for a period. Like, you can't even.
It's
imagine.
eternity.
It's always gonna be bad.
Yeah.
You can't even not think about it.
Yeah,
like, you
right.
will always. You can't even think about how bad this
dude,
is.
do you think that's should be classified as child abuse? If it
I
came
mean,
up in court,
I think
if it
it's-
came to a vote.
Oh,
like,
well,
if,
yeah.
Like if you had to put
I
your money
mean-
on, if you had to put your pencil where your mouth was.
Well, I don't trust society at all. I mean, I think it's the same. Here's the thing that I find it akin to, which I find, growing up religious, I have growing up in a religious school, basically a cult. I have some very, very strong opinions on that I would love to do a podcast about.
For sure, we'll
But
bookmark that.
here's the thing that really I find incredibly ironic, because most Christians are conservative, and one of the things that's going on right now is like critical race theory and how basically white people are
Which itself is a religion.
for sure.
Yeah.
But like one of the things that a lot of
Just
people have
doesn't
an
have a church.
issue with is like, oh, you have to pay for like white people now need to pay for the bad
atonements of
things
the past,
that the white
it's original sin, yeah.
It's exactly what it is. And all these people have this big problem with like, why should my child have to pay for something that somebody else did? This is literally the entire basis of Christianity.
Yeah,
Like we
exactly.
have to do all of this shit in the books because fucking Adam and Eve thousands of years ago made a mistake. Like you're really going to sit here and try to tell me this is no difference? Like
Right.
there's
Dude,
so much hypocrisy on
there's-
all sides.
Yeah, no, there's this guy, John McWhorter, part of that same like 5 people who are in that like black intelligentsia who are immune from being called racist
Yeah.
but stand out against all this
Yeah.
stuff, CRT and whatnot anyways. But he wrote a book called The Woke Demon or something like, I'm butchering the name, that sucks. Because I want to talk to him too. The woke fucking, god damn it, I don't remember. It'll come to me. But he talked about how it's basically the new religion of the left, which makes me think on a more profound point, which I'd love to have like a whole other conversation about, that just like humanity or a lot of humans just in general have a deep need for religion of some kind, and they plug it with like, oh, I'm a white racist. That's my or I'm a white, that's how I can feel fulfilled, is like just embracing the original sin, just giving myself to, and now that we're like we're transitioning into a more or a less theistic society, to a more, God, what's the opposite of
Atheist?
Yeah, but it's like the type of government you are when secular. Secular.
Yeah.
Where people are like searching for that meaning, like, oh shit, like we as humans evolved to have something like that to look for, and that was always filled with God or whatever it was before God, other gods, and then and now, like we've come so far with science, we've realized, oh, that's all bullshit. But now we're all like sitting here like nervous wrecks, like what the fuck? Like there's this gaping hole, dude. Like I've talked to friends who literally said, like, I didn't grow up in a religious household, but I remember everyone in school like talking about God, and I always wished I had something like that, I'm like, that's fucking profound. I never had that. Like, in fact, I would have been one of the people in church who was like, this is dumb. And I've had friends like that too, who were just like, dude, I just saw through it from a young age. So I'm like, that gives me hope, because then it's like, okay, so this isn't a nurture problem. This is just some people have more nature to succumb to that shit and just grow up in it, and just, or even in an older age. Like I have an aunt who didn't start going to church until her husband, when they got married in her 20s, she started going, and now she's like devout to the moon. She's like anti-atheist now. So it's crazy to see that people have different predispositions to that. And I don't know whether to feel enlightened or ashamed about that for humanity, because I think,
Why do you have to feel either?
I guess I don't have to feel either if I don't attach myself to it. But it just sucks that people can succumb to just tomfoolery. Like somebody wrote a book like, why does smart people believe silly things? And that's exactly what it is. It's like just a longing need for something outside of yourself. And the only reason I could see it being a bad thing, because it's like, at the end of the day, if you believe in God, go ahead, dude. Like, it's not hurting me. But my only thing is, like, if you're willing to believe in that, it's kind of to tie it back to the CRT. It's like it makes you that much more willing to believe in other silly things, It like makes you easy. So that's my contention with it. And it's hard when I see people I love and people I care about fall for silly things, because it's like, damn, you know, I really thought like that wouldn't fool you or something. And like now that I feel like I have to explain it to you, I don't want to feel like I'm preaching or anything either, or trying to tell you the wrong thing. But yeah, it's becoming more and more clear, like not who your friends are, but just like who are the people that can kind of are
maturing
a little bit more capable of thinking a little bit more independently about stuff, and like, and not caring and not succumbing, because like everybody's opinions are on full display right now. It's more than probably ever in human history. That's probably another cusp we're on. Like, I don't know if anyone's ever, maybe they've always been just as opinionated, it just hasn't been out there as much.
Yeah, we haven't been able to hear everybody's opinions and have it curated and have our own little echo chambers online.
Yeah, the echo chambers are the big problem too.
One thing that you touched on that I think is really profound, and I would like to have it as a chapter in the book, and the title of this chapter is "Let the Ape Out." And one thing that I think that a lot of people do, in my opinion, coming from the religious background, is I feel like so many people try or forget or try to excuse that we are biological creatures, and there are certain things that, like, it doesn't matter. Yes, we might be, for our in our perspective, we are the epitome of enlightenment.
Right.
We're hairless apes.
Yeah.
We're hairless apes. We are so fucking close to those things that are in the trees throwing shit at each other. Like, it's not even funny. It is almost statistically
Our shit
insignificant.
is just in the form of 256 characters on Twitter.
For sure.
That's the only difference, bro.
For sure. And
Yeah.
like there are so many things that, like, I feel like as we kind of go down the societal evolutionary thing, like, we start thinking we're better than this, we're better than that. Dude, no, you're not. We don't even know how the human body works. There are literally organs in our body. We don't even fucking know why they're there. Like, don't tell me we figured this stuff out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you said earlier that I think really, I remember the first time I articulated this to, like, my uncle and an adult, and it really kind of...
Well, pause real quick. I'm going to
Oh, yeah.
swap the battery in that camera.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep it recording.
No, I know. Okay, I remember. It's everybody wants to be told what to do. That's the topic.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it's true, though.
Well, yeah. Shoot. I'm just gonna keep going. It doesn't matter. We don't need. I'm gonna. So, this is one of the things that I remember first time articulating it, and is I truly believe every human wants to be told what to do. I don't think they know it, and I don't think they'd want to admit
It
it.
makes you realize what sadomasochism is. It's like, oh, this is just somebody who's dialed of being told what to do. It's like all the way to 10. Like,
Oh, interesting.
Dude, I made that realization when I was like, the old, like, treat people the way they want to be treated. It's like, well, there's masochists, though.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, dude,
like,
for sure.
That's not even universal advice, which just makes you think, like, yeah, there's just people out there who want to be told. Dude, like, I'll make that admission. Like, I enjoy being told what to do. Like, I genuinely enjoy, like, not having to think for myself.
Dude.
It's relaxing. Like, it's a nice break.
You probably understand that too a little bit better than most because you work for yourself. And that's like one of the things, even myself, as somebody who is a leader, who has been captains of pretty much all of my teams, I desperately, like, when I'm researching things, I am desperately looking for people that know more than me to tell me what the hell to do.
Yeah.
Like, that is my entire process. And even, and there's a lot of situations where I feel like I can tell people what to do, but I'm constantly looking for other people that can tell me what to do. Yeah. And, like, that religion did that. I think that is so inherent.
Not even just telling me what to do, but honestly, even sometimes how to do it.
How to do it, why to do it, when to do it.
Yeah.
And, like, that's one of the things where you mentioned it before. We were talking about sheeps and lions.
Yeah.
Most people are sheep. Most people need religion. Most people need to be told what to do, or they're honestly dysfunctional. They're incapable.
And when you take it, religion meaning, like, right down to, like, how they're gonna die. It's a way for them to be told, like, how they're gonna be safe.
They don't have to.
Die.
It is a
I
way.
think most of the time,
it is a way to hijack the entire thought process of life. You don't have to think about where you're going. You don't think about what you have to do. You don't have to think about your relationships. You don't have to think about how to act. You don't even have to think about your fucking money.
Yeah.
And the thing is, yes,
God has a plan.
God has a plan. Well, here's the other thing too.
It's the biggest scapegoat since God has a plan.
Well, we're getting
sliced bread.
Yeah, we're getting rid of them. But the thing is now is, like, that inherent need, which is kind of coming back to the whole ape thing. Like, the vast majority of humans want to be told what to do. All of us, I would say, some more than some in more amounts than others.
Yeah, amounts. Yeah.
But. And if religion has taken that place for for a lot of society, and now if you don't have that, it doesn't matter. Something else is going to take that place.
It could be your job. Yeah.
It could be your work.
Yeah.
It could be your government. It can be
your spouse,
your group. Any of those things. But it is
But it's easier to not always feel like you have to make all the calls all the time.
That is human default, I would say.
And so what is the healthy balance, or is it better in an ideal, say the Superman archetype of a person, are they completely 100% independent? They they can always think for themselves. They don't ever need to be told what to do.
Well,
Not
hold on.
necessarily
What's the,
taught
yeah,
new
yeah. What do
things.
you mean? Well, I'm not sure. I'm not following the question. Like,
All I'm saying is like, okay, we made this observation that a lot of people like to be told what to do. So is that a bad thing?
no. And see, this kind of goes back to what I said earlier when you were like, oh, I'm not sure if I should be like excited or nervous. And this is something, bless my therapist. I love her. Everybody should be in therapy.
Preach.
It's kind of like,
I'll
it
second
doesn't
that.
have to be black and white, like it just is. Like it's not bad that people
Yeah.
are that way. And that's kind of what I mean. Like in the chapter of the book, it's like, I'm not trying to say it or bring this up to say like it's good or bad or ugly. It's just like, we are apes, people.
Yeah.
Like we like to, a lot of people like to be told what to do.
Yeah.
Most people don't. It's not good or bad. And so
Most of the time, and that's probably true too. Most of the time, people don't want to be told what to do, but they seek that comfort. Just like watching a good binge on Netflix, like every once in a while, maybe it's a nice reprieve to have somebody else guide your life for you.
And yeah,
but I guess that doesn't make sense because from a religious standpoint, that's like a constant feed of like you always can take solace in what's going to happen,
But I would say if you look at most of life, like that's how there are very few aspects in life that most people are in full control of. Like, unless you really like kind of work for yourself and are single, well, not even single, but what comes to mind for me is like parenting. Like for a lot of people, that's the only time in life that they're actually like, they're the ones fully in power.
Yeah.
And so
that's why they probably freak out when their kid throws a fit.
Totally.
They feel like they're powerless even though they had power before.
Yeah. And so just recognizing like I think it's more important to just recognize that is the fact that it's like, hey, this is how people are, and like traditionally they've gone to religion. That's not really an option anymore. They're going to go to something.
Yeah.
Like they're going to go to the government or to go to something else. And I also do think that it's like valuable information to just kind of
once you understand that, it's almost one of those things that's like once you understand that as a person, as a listener, as a viewer, wherever you're watching this, streaming this, having that realization of, oh, okay, like there is a sense of I can choose whether or not to will myself in or out of that state of like complacency or, oh, I can just take action in my life. And yeah, maybe it's rooted in fear or whatever it is, but
it's also hard work to actually think for yourself.
Yeah.
That's one of I mean, quite frankly, I think a lot of
being an entrepreneur, that's the steepest part of that slope. You're thinking for yourself that whole time because nothing's automated yet.
Dude,
yeah.
It's been almost a year and a half I've been working on this process without any money. Very little. But yes, and so and that's kind of just why I say it is it's like it's not good or better. It's just as a recognition of like, no, most people need somebody to follow. That's why Fauci basically became this fucking religious figure.
Yeah. Because like he was the angel when we needed him most, like the Dark Knight type shit.
Yeah, for sure. He's gonna save us. We'll believe anything he says, even if he completely fucking contradicts himself.
I'm totally guilty of that too. Like part of my, I think, curse or gift, I guess, depending which it's both.
They're often.
Is I just didn't really care too much either way. Like I kind of just cruise through. Like I just don't get super attached or fixated on like a particular idea or person or. Like, yeah, if it turned out Neil deGrasse Tyson tomorrow was like a pedophile, I'd be pretty crushed.
That'd be a bummer. He's a good
That
one.
would suck, or it was, but dude, I was actually just thinking about this earlier today. I don't remember how I came to it, but I was like, it was something I was listening about people you trust. It had to do with the Sam Bankman-Fried thing. And I was like, I can't imagine having a figure like that because I don't follow crypto at all. And like, just it'd be such a crushing blow to learn. And I was like, the closest thing I could think of is Matt Lauer because we watched the Today Show as kids with my parents every day. And I remember when I heard about him and I was like, oh no, dude, not Matt, bro. Please tell me. And it's like, maybe he's not the best example because he looked a little slimy, but he was still like America's dad almost in a way, Today Show, like him and Al Roker were like buds. I don't know. That's like the closest figure I've ever had to an attachment in any sort of way that turned out to be bad. But I could see the mentality of somebody who has somebody like that in their life that's just utterly shattered in an instant from like almost out of nowhere seemingly. What that could do to somebody. But
and here's one of these things that I just like as I get older, and I think I'm going through a lot of kind of stuff just in my own personal life with like this business and realizing relationships and recognizing kind of where I came from, how I was raised in this basically cultish school,
Yeah.
having to really unlearn a lot of these things. Like, it's, I don't know, it's not like good or bad, but like what happened with FTX, like, dude, this is so common. Like, this
Yeah.
happens like every 20 or 30 years. And it's because, unfortunately, like, most people, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not. This is what human nature is. Like, they didn't want to put in the effort to go check.
Yeah.
They didn't want to
It got
do
rubber
that.
stamped by so many people.
By so many people and there was a few out there that did, that were like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make, and there always are.
Yeah.
There always are.
A few red flags.
Always.
Like, you're never gonna not have red flags.
No, but this is, and
if
it's,
they're doing something shitty. Yeah.
And now that I'm starting to kind of like, because we talked about history class before. Like, I used to hate history, and now that I'm getting older and and now especially,
I've thought about going back for a degree in history because it would be such a trip. Like, now that I really appreciate education even more than just 5 years ago, I'm like, fuck.
And like being in my second major financial collapse in my adult life, and being so goddamn apparent that this one was coming for such a long time. Like, I was sitting there screaming at the top of my lungs. Thank God I got my mother's money out of the stock market before it completely fucking crashed. But it was like, dude, for years people were like, this is coming.
Yeah.
This is coming. And it's the same thing with most people that try to invest. The number one rule.
But isn't that to say this is coming, isn't that like when you're at the top of the roller coaster and saying it's coming, because that was a stupid analogy. It's cyclical. Like, it's always going to crash and come up. So when it's at the top saying it's coming, it's like, well, no shit.
Yeah, but nobody listens. This is what just happened to FTX. And that's why, like, I look at this and it's like, I don't necessarily like
feel for any of those people.
Dude, I mean, of course I feel for people that just lost all of their money, but it's like, this is going to continue to happen because we're stupid humans.
Yeah.
And like, there was a bunch of sheep that wanted to be told what to do, so they went and listened to the fucking the talk show people, the financial people that did no due diligence because they were being paid by Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, and he got the endorsements by, like, all those Tom Brady, and he got on the Today.
Yep.
I don't know what shows, but a lot of them, and he was like kind of the sweetheart,
and
wasn't he? Because he drove a Corolla and dressed modestly and stuff. Like, he was. I knew nothing about him before this.
Yeah.
But.
No, and I don't either. And like, I know a bit about finance, like, and I do need to get more into crypto because this is actually incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
In my opinion, this is a huge step forward for crypto.
You mean nerve-wracking?
No, yeah,
I'm
same
just
thing.
Yeah.
Because like, really, this needed to happen because there isn't, from the little bit that I understand about crypto, which I think there are very few people that fully understand crypto.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand finance, there's no way there. If you don't understand finance,
don't put a lot of money into it.
No. I'm just saying, there's a lot of people that think they know crypto that have no idea about finance. You cannot understand cryptocurrency if you do not understand the basics of finance.
Oh yeah, I find myself in that. Like, every time I would try to research it, I'm like, okay, I don't know what this term means. I know they all already existed before Bitcoin, but I didn't. The only new terms you have to learn is blockchain and crypto, like currency,
for sure,
and altcoins,
and that's why. And people that learn those are like, oh, I get money, and like, I just remember, I'm not an expert at it at all, but I just remember hearing about all of these coins and all this stuff, and I'm like, how is this just not like a basically a commodity? Well, no, like a commodity of like all of the value, and that's what finance comes down to, is value. And it's like all of the value in these coins are inherently just, there's no intrinsic value. These are all just value that people have put into it, and you're saying it's $100.
What is the position though, that there's no intrinsic value to anything? It's all like anything at all?
It is, which you can, and you could argue that's what the fiat currency is. The difference is we've got 8 billion people bought into the fiat currency, and we've got we have probably 80,000 people bought into each one of these dumbass fucking each coins, not Bitcoin, but like all of these stupid coins that these people have come out, which is exactly how, which is how FTX got their shit in a ringer. Because I forget, Alameda, was that
not consulting, but
that other one. But they had their own tokens.
Yeah.
Which was, I don't
think it had its token. I think a lot of the stock in that company was in the value of a token that they owned or something.
So I think FTX had a bunch of Alameda tokens. And it was basically, like,
one was inflating the value of the other.
They were not even inflating. They were basing them on each other. Why is your company
like
worth $1 billion?
Well,
Because we have all of these currencies that are worth $1 billion. Well, why are these currency's worth $1 billion because
'cause
they're tied
this
to this
company-
business that's worth $1 billion. That's what happened.
That's the red flag of the century, bro.
No, that's literally what happened. That is why that all collapsed, because nobody wanted to look like, literally they were on the balance sheets, and then the person that finally did all of the due diligence.
how did it happen?
Somebody realized that this was a fucking complete Ponzi scheme and sold. I forget.
It was the guy from
the other crypto
not-
exchange
not,
or whatever.
yeah, it was the other exchange. It was fuck. Yeah, it's on the tip. Of my
Yeah,
tongue.
and
not
this-
crypto.com, but it was the other one.
And-
It was one of the bigger ones.
Yeah, and crypto, just again,
So that's
to
what
say,
did it.
He found out and he
tipped the-
sold every one of his shares. And so that, if you know anything about he sold, I think, 3 million shares.
Yeah.
Which was like over $1 billion.
He had like a pretty decent percentage of the total shares too.
Yeah. And so he
30
sold
or
them
something.
all. And that is going to trigger. I mean, it doesn't, the way that just the economy works and all of this stuff, like now the market is flooded, so
Yeah.
they're not valuable for anybody, so everybody starts and it's a little bit different too, because that thing actually, all in all, had no fucking value to begin with.
Dude, tell me if this is a good analogy for just how shares of a company work in general, because I love that. Dude, I just literally saw this this expression, what is it? ELI5. Have you seen that? ELI5 as like a shorthand on like Twitter or something.
Oh,
it's explain to me like I'm 5.
Oh.
And then you follow with something. I'm like,
that's brilliant.
I'm like, that's cool that exists, because I've thought that thought many times. I was like, I wish more people would ask a question like that, so I can understand it.
For
like
sure.
when they're talking about these things. So I'm going to employ that.
Okay.
And just say shares, and how you're describing it is like we're all in a room and there's 30 kids of us and there's like 100 balls, so we each get 3 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody starts collecting a whole bunch of them. And then we're all in there and we're all jealous of that kid who has all of them. So people are constantly trading, and probably for balls from other rooms and stuff. But then all of a sudden, one person who was hoarding all these for the longest time, just like, no, this is dumb, and like leaves the game. And then everybody's like, oh, this is dumb, because they were the cool kid and they left the game. So now this is.
And you weren't even jealous.
These balls are like, why am I holding these balls? Like, why am I was jealous because he had these balls, but like, that's just the currency in this made up room. We're just kids in a fucking gym. Like, what?
And the only reason.
Everything I thought I knew to be true. So is that like all Bitcoin is just a bunch of balls somebody created and put us all in a room? And
Bitcoin's different because, you started with, dude, for sure. Bitcoin's different because you started with shares of a business and then you went to Bitcoin, and they are different because you're talking about.
I did. I shouldn't have done that.
So we can.
Shares, I think, are more like that.
They are. I would change it almost a little bit as I would add to it. I will say this.
Yeah.
So with this example, you've got the cool kid.
I could have probably made a better one, but
no, it's really good. But instead of like, you're not. Yeah, you're jealous of the kid that has all of those balls.
Yeah, the jealousy doesn't matter a whole lot.
Well,
but it does.
No,
value,
hold on. Let me get with this.
Sorry.
It does. It does, because that's what the value. It's because the cool kid has these things. So you tie it. You're like, oh, I want to own these things, so I'm cool. Which therefore now, like, let's say that cool kid owns 50 of the balls that were out there. Yeah. So there's only 50 left, and you guys are trading. Now you're willing to trade your whole sandwich for that ball instead of just your chips, because there's only 50 left. And I don't have that many.
Oh, fuck.
And all the cool kids have a bunch of them. I need all of them. And every single one, this is economic supply and demand. Every time you take one out of that trading pool, they all inherently get more valuable because there's scarcity.
Okay.
So now, and you get down, and so now there's only 5
Even though
balls
these things,
left.
The reason I use balls is because like those don't hold any value outside of the room.
Exactly.
They're only in that room.
Yep. And so like, and that's, but now we are actually understanding of like, this is actually how currency works. Is like the intrinsic value of it, and even stocks and this type of stuff is value.
I mean, what happens when the adult comes in and just throws a bunch of more balls into the room?
That's exactly what we just did. No,
well,
I mean, this is a great question, but let's take it step by step. Like okay, so let's say
now the cool kid is like,
the cool kid's got 70 balls. There's only 5 balls trading, and you only have 10.
Yeah.
You're willing now to trade your lunch for the next fucking month
Yeah.
for one of those 5 balls left because there's only that many left. They are that valuable.
Yeah.
As soon as that here's 2 different scenarios.
Okay.
As soon as that cool
Of how
kid,
this can all collapse.
how
you're saying?
all this can collapse. As soon
Okay.
as that cool kid says, this is kind of stupid, I'm done playing, he throws all 60 balls in. Now they're
gives them
only
to not out of the room, but gives them to everybody.
gives them
left
back
in there.
into the thing.
Yeah.
So now each ball is not worth a month's worth of lunch. It's only worth 2 chips. So that
And
means
you've already
the
given
10,
up here.
the 10 that you had that used to be, if you had 10 of them and they were trading at a month's lunch,
Yeah.
you had 10 months worth of lunch sitting in your hoard. Now they're only worth 4 chips. You now have half a
dude.
lunch worth.
I feel so bad for that kid.
So that's one thing. That's what happens. Here's the other thing that can happen,
Okay.
which is what Biden did a little
And
bit
then I
with
want to know
currencies.
what. And then I want to know what. Not Warren Buffett, the other fucker, the one who actually did the bad shit. Bernie Madoff.
Oh,
that was more of a different type.
yeah,
of scheme,
yeah, and
that's a different analogy for different.
And yeah. But here's the other thing that can happen. But just going with this whole value thing and scarcity and the intrinsic value. Another thing that can happen is kind of what Biden did, and this will explain inflation. There's only 100 balls. This dude's got 60 of them. We're trading at a month's lunch. The teacher comes in and just dumps in 300 more balls.
and then shuts the door and
And
walks
it's like,
away.
okay, have fun. Now all the balls that you have right now are fucking worthless.
Yeah.
But you just paid a month's lunch.
Yeah.
You just bought one of those for a month's lunch.
Yeah, right.
And it was worth a lot. And then
Yeah.
they came in, and now it's literally because there's 300. It's not even worth a fucking chip now. So you just spent a month's lunch for a chip.
Does that sound like a fair trade?
No.
No.
And now people,
That's-
but that's kind of the weird thing with value.
Yeah.
And why, I mean,
But people feel the initial like, oh, this is great because they got 30 balls all of a sudden.
Yes.
Which must hold
So-
some other. You must be able to trade those for something else too.
okay, and I'm going to continue to run with this now, actually. Okay,
If you
so
can, I mean,
going back to this.
until the analogy
so this
breaks, we're
is-
gonna
No,
run this
this is
fucking thing to
great.
the
So
ground.
let's go back. This is what's going to make Bitcoin so fucking valuable. An NFT, a non-fungible token. So
Right.
in this situation, those balls are Bitcoins. There's only 100 of them.
Okay.
But what makes them so valuable is that you know for certain nobody will ever come
Add
in
more
and dump
balls.
more balls.
Okay.
And that is incredibly valuable,
Right.
Because it's non-fun. You can't change them.
The
and
only thing that'll change is how many people have them, or
yes, and the intrinsic value. So this is what will. So what can continue to happen?
it's just
is-
taking one variable out of the equation. That's the
yes,
beauty of
it's
it.
the fungibility.
Okay.
You're taking the fungibility out,
Right.
and that is what makes cryptocurrencies so unbelievably potentially valuable.
potentially valuable.
Potentially. We still have a lot to figure out, and this FTX thing exposed some major blaring holes in the system of regulation.
Just in the system of regulation, not in the core concept itself.
No,
Okay.
no. And because
But I mean,
those
of course,
were
there's going to be
fungible.
holes because it's so early.
Yes,
I
of
feel
course there will be holes. This is it,
And
literally.
this kid just fucking found him because his
Of course.
parents are doctors.
And there's
going
going
to
to be a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because also this is brand new. Literally, people are creating value out of nothing. Like cryptocurrencies are a fucking
Dude,
joke.
NFTs, the artwork and shit.
Yes.
Maybe that's a different argument,
It's
but I
a-
feel like it's I don't know.
That is NFT artwork is essentially the cat videos of the internet. It's like, okay, it's like the very first thing. It's like, okay, we're using the internet to do cat videos. We're using NFTs to do art. It's like, okay, this is great, like works for that, but it's like, okay, we can also like take down entire countries with the internet. It's like there's so
I
much
see what you're saying.
more power in NFTs than just art, but that's the quickest, fastest, easiest, most initial way of doing it. Because it's now brand new, nobody can ever make that again.
Yeah, yeah.
And that comes down to really comes to understand all of this stuff. I would say even in business, in finance, and cryptocurrency is just understanding the concept of value
Yeah.
and how
And how it can change.
and how it's
In
different
both
from
directions,
you
probably.
to me.
yeah.
And that
so and so to tie it back to that, like, so the one beauty of all of these balls in the crypto room is that no one's ever going to dump more in.
yep.
So then how does the value still fluctuate? At that point, it's all about who's the popular
Yep.
kid in the room.
How many are being traded?
Yeah.
Because if there's somebody that has 99 of them, that one is incredibly valuable. The cool thing is, too, because they're non-fungible,
But if
that
they're
doesn't
not moving, but doesn't the movement of the balls themselves between people cause the value to go up?
Yes.
So that's what you need is like,
Yes.
that's probably what the analogy is missing is like they're only like blue balls, pink balls, orange balls. Like the only thing that makes any of them valuable is the fact like, oh, I'll trade that for that and this for that.
is you're trading your lunch for these now.
Okay.
That is what currency is. Currency is a store of value.
Oh, you're trading your lunch for them now. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So that was just kind of, just trying
No,
to.
that's perfect. No, that makes sense. You're not trading for other balls. You're trading them for things else. You're trading Bitcoin for money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that is what a
Which
currency
is super fungible, right? That's what money is.
Exactly.
So that's crazy.
What
It's like
currency
a
is.
fungible thing meeting a non-fungible thing
And
is
that's-
fucking people over.
That's why currency is so valuable. But now we have the ability. That's why it makes it so weird is like the dollars that we have now, they can change tomorrow. The value can change because there could be more, there could be less in circulation, all this stuff. With Bitcoin, it's not. So and that the value of them will change.
And does
but
that
it's
mean the value
not-
of a gallon of milk will change tomorrow, or does that mean the value of a gallon of milk is just linearly tied to the value of a dollar? So it's
Yes.
okay. so
Exactly.
that's all
It's
that
the
means.
same amount of value you're getting, but your dollar isn't giving you the same amount of value.
Okay. The only way for a gallon of milk to change its value independently of the dollar is if like all the cows die or something. Okay.
Scarcity.
Right.
That's the economics, supply and demand. So
Right.
if you adjust that, so yes.
But just generally speaking, like the gallon of the milk is going to hold the same value as the dollar. The ratios are going to be the same.
Exactly.
Unless some cows die, then the fucking milk will dip by itself.
Exactly.
But the value of the dollar is probably the most fungible thing, isn't it? Because it's...
it kind of because we
or
can
is it
print
just
money.
safer than...
No,
Yeah.
because we can print money,
Yeah.
and we're getting really deep.
And it's not like a freak of nature where this money comes from, unlike cows dying, to use that sort of analogy. But it's fungible in the sense that somebody can literally type in a computer and there's another $1 trillion added to the economy.
That
now.
literally, so let's just use this example of what Biden just did, because he
Right.
just did this. He just put in the same amount of money. He just came in and literally dropped in another 50 balls. Out of all of the money that was in the economy, there was only 100 balls there. And
Why?
Why?
I mean, I know stimulus package.
Because
I
we
get this.
fucked up in 2008. Because we fucked up in 2008.
Is that what it is? We're paying from that still?
No, it's not, because we did it differently. In 2008, we didn't give any money to the actual consumers.
That's what it was.
We didn't give any money to them.
It was to bail out the housing.
It was
loans,
to bail out the mortgage companies,
mortgage
and
companies, yeah.
but that was supposed to trickle down. So this time we tried to do it from the bottom,
with the
which is
stimulus checks, right?
yeah, which was a better approach. But the problem was there wasn't. It was completely just there wasn't a lot of thought that went into it, and all that money went to a bunch of people that didn't need it.
Dude, and so much of it got stolen too. I heard, like
Dude,
a huge percentage.
Well, and here's the thing, though.
That's a
So
whole
now,
other thing, but
now that
yeah.
we're understanding these financial concepts, when people were like worried about inflation, if you look into Keynesian economics, which is arguably not, doesn't make any fucking sense, but that's what's taught in all of our education systems, and that's what our Fed system is based on.
Okay.
Economics 101 of Keynesian economics of inflation is directly correlated to the money supply. So when you increase the money supply, let's just say we had $1 billion in the economy right now.
Mm-hmm.
He just put in another 500 million. Mm-hmm. But so that gallon of milk that you had cost $1.
Yeah.
No, tomorrow it's going to cost $1.50.
Right,
Because
yeah.
it's the exact same fucking thing. The problem is,
Yeah.
your money is worth less, but nobody's making any more. That's inflation.
Yeah, that's inflation when nobody's making more. I mean, I got a raise from work. I remember when he said maybe it's just because we have a good boss. I don't know if this is legally required at all, but he's like, so I gave you guys all a 75-cent raise, to counteract the inflation.
Yep,
the
it's
other day.
not required at all.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna give him a pat on the back.
No,
for
it
that
is,
then.
and that's why our federal minimum wage hasn't moved up. This is why when people bitch about the
crazy.
cost of living,
Yeah.
federal minimum wage hasn't gone up in I don't know how many fucking decades.
Like it rises like this, but yet the cost of the dollar
yes,
or the value
no,
of
it
the
literally
dollar
hasn't
dips.
roused at all, and
Yeah,
the
what's
Fed,
gonna happen?
Our government literally tries to keep inflation between about 2%. So we know every year the dollar is getting 2% weaker,
Less, yeah.
and our brilliant fucking leaders have decided to not raise the base pay for anybody. So when people are, so this brings me full swing back to like, You cannot depend on the government to pay you enough money to fucking survive, which is why you should work for yourself.
Yeah, and this is
And
not.
don't pay them Social Security because they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yeah, and you can save for your own retirement. Yeah, I feel like that's truly like an enlightenment sort of perspective, but I can't remember. I don't remember what the take on government was post enlightenment, because I think they were still trying to deal with monarchies and shit.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm sure that our very government is a product of the enlightenment thinking, but yeah, there is a sense of like true independence is not being reliant at all for those things like Social Security, for your retirement, for your, like, now that the private, what capitalism has churned out is all of these different things that do the exact same thing the government does. They just do it for a different price, and their value of their money isn't tied to, well, the value of the money is, but the value of their product. In the government's case, it's money, but in their case, it's a service or whatever. The fact that the government can increase the money supply anytime is, that's the kink in the whole armor of the system, and it seems like a good thing. But
there's a lot of kinks in the armor. We haven't even talked about like the requirements for bank reserves of what they can lend. There's a lot like I found myself way more interested in the economy over the last few years.
Did you think about doing an economics degree?
I have so instead of a minor, I have a certificate of applied finance in economics.
Oh, nice.
So I studied a lot of economics.
I
hated it in school.
Oh, really?
I was good at it. It didn't make any sense because this is not going to make probably sense to fucking anybody, but because we're taught Keynesian economics, which is, I've just listened to this podcast, is just an arm of the government trying to justify their really shitty management of it. There's a better economics model called the Austrian economic model or something. I probably butchered that.
As in like from Austria?
From Austria, yeah. And
they do this?
Huh?
They do this?
Oh, yeah, but here's the thing that they actually do. I want to try to think about this well, because I don't know enough about Austrian economics to really praise it as well. I've seen a few things. But one of the major differences is they actually incorporate, I think it's not directly human happiness, but Keynesian economics literally takes out
GDP.
No. It literally takes out like what humans will actually, like human happiness. Keynesian economics doesn't actually play out in reality. It doesn't account for that. It doesn't account for what humans actually want or do. Okay. I know it really seems that fucking off base, but that's what Keynesian economics completely misses, is the human element to it. Okay. It is strictly analytical. It's utilitarian. The Austrian economics is like, okay, this is but what do humans do?
Yeah.
And so that's a very different model.
And it also there's echoes of that in what you're talking about with the EI approach of your wanting and desire to focus on the individual and okay, set your goals. What do you want? Who do you want to be? Do you want to be traveling in a van? Do you want to be just living your best life? Like, figure out who you are and do work on the personal stuff as well as the business, technical, day-to-day boring shit. Yep. But focus on yourself as well. There's a balanced approach, approach to understanding economics and how money should work in your life. But that's crazy to know that there's a government system that works that way.
It's dude, there's a lot crazy. And
that incorporates that.
It's very, very, very interesting, especially over what's happened the last few years. Just with, the monetary policy has been extraordinarily atrocious, quite frankly. There's a lot of stuff that just, that probably gets too deep into the weeds, especially because I'm not as confident in my opinions in that realm of things. But I would just say we need to educate people better on how the economy works, how our social systems work.